So for over 30 years, I've been a supporter of Swindon Town Football Club. Years gone flying by, and for over 20 of those, I have marvelled every single home game as I stroll in to either the town end or former spots I used to enjoy up in the Arkles, as you glance out on this beautiful green carpet. And it seems like a perpetual carpet, no matter what time of the season it is. One of the men behind that, or rather the lead figure behind that, is our special guest tonight. A gentleman that doesn't enjoy necessarily the most high profile in relation to performance matters at Swindon Town, but a man who is so crucial to the Swindon way of playing football. Really excited to be talking to him tonight for a number of different reasons. But it's probably best if we describe this chap as a bit of a demon with a fork. A bit of a demon when it comes to the devil's glare whenever anyone does anything remotely awful to his beautiful carpet, as none other than our owner Clem Morfooni discovered just a few weeks ago when he decided to lead an impromptu penalty shootout at half-time, destroying a penalty spot as he did. But enough about the waffle. Let's get the big man on. Let's introduce him to you. Ladies and gentlemen, hopefully his microphone can unmute. I give you Marcus Cassidy. Marcus, good evening.
Good evening, mate. Yeah, thanks.
How are you, buddy?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. Yeah,
thank you, mate. That's very kind.
Very flattering. Yeah, thank you.
You're very, very welcome. Listen, mate, I don't mince my words. I've never, listen, you and I have had a few conversations in the past.
Yeah.
But I've never really had the opportunity to kind of impress on you just how much pride you give Swindon Town fans. So I'm going to kind of put it to you, almost like revisit part of my introduction, okay? One of the things that makes Swindon Town so very, very, very special is when you walk into that ground and you take your spot, you look at the first thing you see is the lads usually warming up on the pitch, but that pitch always looks utterly bloody glorious. And yet, you are always the first one to stand in the corner and be disparaging about your own work, which always baffles me. But nonetheless, from a Swindon Town point of view, mate, I'm going to tell you on behalf of all Swindon Town fans, thanks for everything that you do, mate. I know it's a hard graft. You're outside, you're out there in all elements, you're grafting away, and then on Saturday, a bunch of people that we call heroes go out and churn it all up for you. I mean, it's a perverse world that we live in.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, it's my pride. It's my pride to make sure it's good enough for the players and all that, and to make sure it looks as good as it does, even with being an old pitch. But yeah, it gives me satisfaction that knowing that people think that. That's really pleasing. So yeah, I really appreciate that.
And it's not just us, mate. You're a multi-award winner at that, aren't you?
I've won a couple over the years. Don't know how. I've won one for a couple of years, so I'd give the others a chance. So. Yeah, I'm going for it again this year. We've had a good investment this year, so I'm really putting the effort in.
Mate, we can see that. Your daily tweets are showing just how much effort you're putting into it, because it's not just as simple as throwing a bit of grass seed down, as I think you've been showing people.
No, definitely. With social media nowadays, like people, with the groundsmanship, people just think like you paint the lines and cut the grass. So I just thought it would be a good thing with me and Alex. Alex has been working with me, and then just showing people what we actually do and the science that goes behind it, and just giving the fans a bit of an insight. And then sometimes, obviously, it gets a bit boring talking about other things that are going on at the club. So I just thought it'd just loosen things up a bit and lighten things up a bit, really.
Well, mate, you're doing a terrific job, because I've got to be honest, I never thought the art of laying a lawn I'd find so fascinating. And I know it's not quite just your average garden lawn that you're laying there, mate, but as somebody who's been lucky enough to be invited to come and play on the pitch, it really is as good with your studs going through it as it is to look at from the stands. And it's quite funny, Marcus, isn't it? Because when you look at football pitches from the stands, sometimes you get a skewed perspective, because you get almost like a diagonal view across it, which can mask a myriad of sins.
Yeah.
And I recall a conversation with Andy King in an away game at Wickham.
Yeah, God bless him.
Yeah, God bless him. Some years ago, but I remember I said to Andy King on the touchline, I was like, "The pitch looks all right, Gaffer." And he literally looked at me and he went, "Not being funny, mate. I don't know what the bloody hell you're looking at. It's a beach out there." and he invited me to go and have a look on the pitch. And sure enough, within 2 feet of crossing the white line, I totally got what he means. And that's something that, like I say, I can say from first-hand experience. Even at the end of the season, our pitch is comparatively magical, mate. So, Marcus, like I said, I can't thank you enough. There's so many memories, particularly the last 20 to 22 years while you've been at the club. So many of the wonderful memories that we will enjoy have been conducted on top of your hard work. And let's be honest, as we learned in 2010, it only takes one bubble to take a dream and turn it into a nightmare. So you deserve an enormous amount of credit, mate. But listen, what we're going to do, Marcus, we're going to have a bit of fun with you tonight, mate. I thought you deserve it. So we've got a whole raft of daft and silly questions that we're going to be battering you with, mate, for the next hour and a bit. I've got a wonderful panel of the Sir Tom Broadbent Lounge usuals joining us tonight, and I'm going to introduce them all one at a time. They're all going to be firing the questions at you as well, Marcus. And I'll start with the wonderful Joe Vincent. Joe, good evening.
Evening, chaps. Happy bank holiday.
Happy bank holiday to you, Joe. So, Joe, Marcus, Joe, we've done the intros.
Hi, mate.
How you doing, Paul?
Marcus, I'll introduce you to my other co-host, the wonderful Chris Phillips. Chris to Marcus, Chris.
Evening.
Hello, Chris. How you doing? Sorry.
And I'll introduce you to the delightful Sam Ryder lookalike, Martin.
Hello, nice to meet you. Good evening.
Yes, fine. How you doing, Paul?
Good, how are you?
Yeah, good, man.
Our penultimate co-host tonight, Marcus, is the delightful Max Springer. Max.
Even last night, Marcus.
All right, man.
And the next bloke you know all about, because he's kind of like your right-hand man. You can't dispute that, as I'm sure you will as well. But for the benefit of everyone listening, he's been with us for the last few weeks. The delightful Alex Veach. Alex, no introductions required to Marcus, but say hello to everyone.
Good evening all, how are we doing? Marcus, how are we doing, mate?
Yeah, not bad. Surprised you're on time.
Nerves got the better of you yet?
But I'm surprised you're on time.
Here we go. He started already.
Makes a change, mate. First time for everything, isn't it?
Whee.
Right. Well, listen, Marcus, without further ado, we'll crack on with the questions. And I'm going to be opening the night's proceedings, Marcus. And this is a question that's come from Taze on Twitter. And Taze asked, Marcus, how much training is required to go on the pitch at half-time, poke and prod the turf while generally having a chat and looking around aimlessly?
Oh, you need a degree for that. Yeah. You need a degree. couple of years of college, then sixth form or whatever, then back onto university. So yeah, it's hard work, to be fair.
It's not just looking around aimlessly, though, Marcus, is it? You're not just looking around aimlessly.
Basically, like, it looks like you're doing nothing, but when you get close to the grass, there's like these tiny incisions, and you are literally just prodding it, like just to make these incisions go back. So it looks like you're doing nothing, but you actually are. But I can understand where they come from. I was only having a conversation with one of my pitch contractors today, and he does divoting at the Principality Stadium in Wales, and he said the same. He hates it. Like, people, it just looks like they're walking around doing nothing, but they are actually doing something. But if you're working for me, you do need a degree for it. So yeah.
Well, listen, we believe you. Thousands wouldn't. Chris, move us along.
Right, Marcus, this one's from Mike Dixon. When you eat a roast dinner, do you eat your greens using a knife and fork or with a spade and fork out of habit?
I use a pitchfork. I use a pitchfork and stab it into the meat. So yeah, meat eater. That's what I am. So, yeah, I take my fork home from work, and that's what I use for
it. Martin, move us along.
All right, this one is from Pie Man. He said, during last week's show, Ben Garner's impending departure bombshells at the midway point of the show. What bombshell will you drop halfway through this one?
Oh, what bombshell will I drop?
Yeah.
I don't know, actually. I might retire, actually. There you go. Yeah.
That's quite the bombshell.
Don't you dare.
Might retire. I've had enough of walking up and down that pitch, so yeah.
Is that a threat, Marcus, or is that a contract negotiation?
Nah, contract negotiation, yeah.
Very good indeed. Joe, you're up.
Hello. Got a question here from John Saunders. Marcus, have you ever had to replace your shovel, or has it had 17 new heads and 14 new handles?
I've seen this one on sorry, just dropped my earphones. Yeah, I've seen this one on Twitter.
Spoilers.
Basically, I've kept the same part for 40 years. It's sentimental to me. So so even if the handle fell off, I'd probably still use it. So yeah.
Fair play.
And is it a good fork, Marcus? Is it a good fork?
Yeah, it is. All my other divoters, they don't like it because they like the little ones. But like I said, I'm sentimental and stuck in my old ways. So yeah, I still stick with the old one.
What makes a good fork?
The person that's using it.
Bravo. Yeah. Right, I guess we must ask your wingman's got a question, so we'll get Alex involved.
Here we go.
This is from James Griss via Twitter. At what point in the season do you start to think that touchline by the Don Rogers stand isn't going to hold out?
I think about that at the moment because I know it's not going to hold out. So yeah, it's just knackered with the shade and all that. It basically just never works. It goes within a month. There's no, unless you AstroTurf it, which is like a massive expense, you ain't going to save it at all. So yeah, so I'm thinking about that.
Can you blame the men in? Can you blame the men or women in black for that?
They used to be able to run alternate linesman runs, but they've stopped doing that through the FAs, the EFLs, the teaching of the linesman. So yeah, so they used to be able to like spread the damage, but they have to run in the same place now, and being the shaded side of the pitch, then it's always going to be ruined. So yeah.
So it is. It's basically we blame the official. We blame the officials for pretty much everything else this season. We might as well blame them for ruining our pitch as well before balls even getting kicked.
Yeah, it's all their fault. Yeah, and then basically,
I like the cut.
Yeah, when it does get too muddy, they just run on the pitch anyway. So
right then, Marcus. The next question is actually a task. Are you ready?
Okay, all right.
Are you
intriguing?
Are you at home at the moment? Are you at home, Marcus?
Yes, sir.
Right. Go to your bedroom, reach under your bed. What's the first thing that comes out in your hand?
You're
not allowed to peek.
It's grass porn. So most people have magazines under the beds. Mine's grass porn.
All right. So what would such an exotic title be called?
Pitch care. Pitch care is one. I'm looking at them, and turf business.
Pitch care. Oh, I don't know. Does Alex like to? Does Alex get his hands on your publications?
No, he just looks at the picture.
I think that's where he's getting all of these big words from his tweets. I think he's definitely got someone writing them for him. Definitely.
Different persona.
So we've learned that Marcus under his bed has got a copy of Pitch Care. That's absolutely magnificent.
And turf business as well.
The Pitch Care and turf business. What about a dirty sock?
Well, there's a few of them.
It's all green and mossy.
And a soiled cap.
Yeah.
We'll stop it there before it gets too incriminating. Chris, move us along.
We've skipped Max, I think.
Oh, have we? Yeah. I do apologise. Sorry, Max.
Oh, sorry, don't worry, mate. All right, so this next one's from Claire Follett via Twitter. Has Marcus ever sent one of his team to buy 4 candles?
I don't understand that, but yeah, I'd seen Claire put that on Twitter, but I don't understand what 4 candles is.
Is it like tartan? Like you said, they want to get tartan paint or a bucket of steam or something? No.
Any elbow grease? Got the elbow grease shop key?
Left-handed screwdriver.
That's it.
Yeah.
I noticed Alex is being a little bit sheepish here, Marcus. Have you tucked up any of your apprentices or work experience gentlemen or ladies?
To be fair, I haven't actually. I'm actually quite good with them. I'm actually quite nice to them, which is pretty strange for me. But Matty from maintenance, I do stitch him up quite a bit. So bless him, I absolutely love him. So yeah,
Marcus absolutely batters him.
All right, give us your best Matty story then, Marcus. Have you got a good one?
Oh, there's all sorts. There's all sorts. I'll probably get sacked if I told the truth. But no,
I will remind you, Marcus, we're after the watershed. So, you know.
Nah, Matt is great. He thrives on the banter. And to be fair to Matt, he gives the players so much shit. It's unbelievable. Yeah, literally. So, but we do have fun at lunchtimes. That hour of lunchtime is absolutely hilarious. So, Alex, I know that. He can vouch for that. But yeah, it's all good fun.
All right, that's fair dues. We'll give you that. Chris, do you want to move us on then?
Marcus, you know every blade of grass by now. How many are there, and what are their names? That's from Derek Stevens.
There's got to be there's millions, if not billions, of blades of grass out there. But I haven't got a name. I just call it my girl. Everyone, it's like you call your girl. You call your car your girl, don't you? You can't call it a man, can you? So yeah, the pitch is just my girl, really.
Do you ever talk to her, Marcus? Do you ever talk to her while you're tending to her needs?
Oh, back in the day, I prayed to it. Literally, there's a photo of me when we had germination sheets put on it, and then I took them off, and the grass, it went to -2 degrees that night, and the grass didn't like it, went into shock. There's a picture of me examining the leaf of the grass, and it looks like I'm praying to it. And then Chris Tanner, the old media bloke, put a photo on the website, yeah, and it literally looks like I'm on my hands and knees praying, and basically I actually was, yeah. So that's the limit. That's the limits I go to, the boundaries I go to. So.
Hey, well, whatever you're doing, it clearly works.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right, Martin, what's the next one?
All right, this one, I'm not quite sure who sent this one in, but it says, if you were a good boy, would Santa leave you magic grass seed in your stocking?
That's a bit weird, isn't it?
Very weird.
Yeah, no, I've got magic grass seed anyway. So I don't need magic grass seed.
Have you ever been given a work-related present then for Christmas from a loved one or from a friend? A pair of wellies, you said no fork, maybe a nice shovel, maybe some good manure.
Yeah, I've got a mug in my bedroom actually for one of my ex-girlfriends saying, let me have a look. Hold on one sec. What does it say? It basically says the world's okayest groundsman. So she thought she was being funny. Yeah. That's why she's next.
Yeah, well, yes, and bravo. She clearly didn't know. She clearly didn't know what she had. She doesn't appreciate it as much as we do, Marcus.
Yeah, I've had the odd pair of socks that has something to do with like groundsman's stuff like that. Yeah, picture of a lawnmower man on my socks and that.
What's the most obscure bit of clothing then that you might have to wear while you're doing your job?
Well, when nobody's there, I'll put the old thong on. Put the speedos on. Get the suntan on and all that. Bit of oil on the thighs and that.
The mind boggles. Marcus marching up and down the county ground pitch in a bor-up mankini. That is something that we can arrange. Well, I mean, again, we've got a new media guy coming in, haven't we? Maybe he's got an eagle eye. Get the camera out.
Yeah, stick a Swindon badge on the mankini. People will love it, won't they?
Well, yeah, absolutely. It's high quality content. You watch out for Steve and Jonah, mate. They'll have you tucked well and truly up. The life of a kit man, the life of a groundsman. I think you could usurp them. Absolutely usurp them.
I've just got to add there, by the way, hopefully the weather doesn't get too warm because I can't take his pasty legs being out for the next 6 weeks, to be honest.
Pasty legs, Marcus, eh?
Yeah, I'm going for a spray tan tomorrow, I think.
Needs to.
Joe, what have we got next?
I'll tell you what, the content we get on this show. Last week we had Bollocks. This week we've got Marcus mowing the grouse and a mankini.
Oh, it's absolutely. Well, it's top drawer, mate. It's top drawer, and the punters love it.
Can't beat it. So next question is from Josh Maguire. Is Marcus able to make the playing surface bigger to suit us more? Can you not water it to piss off the fans from the Staffordshire area?
Right. So basically, Ben Garner wanted the pitch bigger. Whether he still does, whether he's there or not, I don't know. So we were going to make the pitch bigger. It'd be pretty hard to do it, but we can do it. But we'll wait and see what happens. Really, we've with the managerial situation without getting into it too much. So it can be done, but it can only go to a certain limit. So we can only make it 2 meters longer each end, and then a meter wider each side, and that's the absolute limits. And it's pretty much at its limit at the moment, anyway.
So you're waiting for Flitcroft to come back, and then we can just bring the touchlines in, make it longer.
That was Phil Brown. Yeah, Phil Brown made it tiny.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, good God. Well, if Flitcroft comes back, we'd be putting bloody nets up behind the town end again to catch all the match balls.
Let's get a race.
Yeah.
Alex, you're next.
Interesting question from Mike Dixon. Do you think Lee Power invested too much money in the pitch? Now, I'm sort of laughing as I'm saying that, but I'll let you answer that one, Marcus. But I'm not quite sure why you give me that one, Hannah, to be honest, but maybe there was a little bit of reasoning behind that one.
Right. To be honest, this might rub a few feathers, but basically, the club, at the time, still invested in the pitch. We had a decent budget, and it was only until COVID struck and the season finished that we didn't do a decent renovation. But I've got to be honest, they did actually invest a relative decent amount over the period that they were there. And I can't deny that. We've invested a lot more this year. But yeah, so Lee did invest a little bit of money. So yeah, I can't knock him for that.
Listen, I all I do is take the questions, copy and paste them. You know, Mike's asked. I think it's only fair that we put Mike's questions here.
Yeah.
Feathers ruffled or not, that but I'll move us along.
Yeah.
So got another task for you, Marcus.
All right. Okay.
No cheating. Go to your kitchen sink.
Right.
Tell us when you're there.
Hold on one sec. On the way. Yeah.
What's in there? Be honest.
What's in there?
Describe it. What's in there?
What, in the sink?
Yeah.
Empty yogurt pot, sponge, flannel, and a knife. What I've used for toast.
Do we believe him, Alex?
Sorry, guys, forgot the mic was off there. Yeah, I believe him, but he's probably woke his mum up as he's gone downstairs. So she's, I'm trying to get him to move back to Swindon, Hannah's, but he still wants to stay in Stonehouse. But he's got an easy life like me, living with a parent. See, that's probably what it is.
Yeah, but hold on, I got two.
Well, we all have...
I got 2 residents. I got my parents and I got Dangerous Dave's who I stay there. So free rent on both.
What would be in Dangerous Dave, think?
You don't want to know.
You don't want to know. That's why he's dangerous.
I'm imagining train spotting.
Oh, good God. Let's move on before I ask what the state of Dangerous is Dave's toilet's like. I think Chris, for the sake of decency, what have we got next?
I think Alex is going. Joe even's going to protest this one.
All right.
Marcus, have you ever been tempted to raise a family of moles at the Cassham Stadium? After all, getting on the grass after hours can't be too difficult.
I can answer that one for him. Moles don't exist.
I beg to differ, but still.
Yeah. Well, I've never seen one, but they do exist. Yeah, it's not hard getting to the Cassham, is it? And then a certain Swindon fan did that, who I know did that before, didn't he? Put STFC with weed killer in their pitch probably about 4 or 5 years ago.
Whoa, was that what it was? Because I thought that had been burnt on. Was that weed killer?
Yeah, basically it burnt it on with weed killer, yeah. And I know the said person in question, so I won't mention his name. But yeah.
Marcus's weed killer is top drawer as well, so...
Yeah, he probably robbed it off me anyway. But it was nothing to do with me.
Fair dues. Max, moving us along.
How bad would a knee slide need to be to qualify for you chasing said culprit with your pitchfork? And that's from Sid on Twitter.
Oh, any knee slide whatsoever. Yeah.
So have you had a few words with McKirdy this season?
Yeah, but because he's scoring at home, you sort of like turn a blind eye, you know what I mean? But I do have words with him after. Just say, look, mate, come on. Do it behind the white line, off the pitch, you know what I mean? Have some respect.
You should make that do the repairs, or at least help.
But the problem is, once like say McCurdy does it, then it's the 5 people behind him that do it, and they copy it. That's the problem. The worst one was we had Colchester in the FA Youth Cup game, and then all the young lads come out, and I could hear them talking, the Colchester lads saying we're going to do an east side and all that. Right, guys, I was like, well, lads, well, calm down. And they just like, yeah, no problem, mate. And then as soon as they scored, they did a fucking east side. So, they basically mugged me off.
Who's the worst culprit then, Marcus, for disregarding your instructions in relation to anything on the pitch? Can you dish the dirt?
I won't mention their names, but he's about 6'5" tall. Scored one of the best goals for Swindon in the playoff game against Sheffield United in the 5-5 draw. And yet complains about the pitch every game. So mention no names, no names. Ben Glavin. But he said, don't get me wrong, but it's the fact that he comes up to me and says, all right, Marcus, have a good holiday. Yeah, have a good time off. Yeah, I might have no time off. See you in the summer, whatever after the summer. Yeah, then the grass is too long. But that's just football. It's like, you get it. I've had it ever since I started that. It's a blame culture. Like, basically, if you have a bad game, a footballer, it doesn't matter what level they're at, they will blame anyone but themselves, which I understand. Don't get me wrong. But the first thing to blame, the easiest thing to blame, is the pitch. And like I said, I've had it before, and I'll always have it again. So, just one of those things.
Just one of those things. Well, I think we've got another question along similar lines, and it's coming from Alex. Will give you this one.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's pretty similar. But what's the funniest thing you've ever said to a player for intentionally marking the pitch, and who was it? Just before you answer that, obviously, just going back on just what we said, but Marcus will probably tell us as well. But obviously, when the away teams, when they come and warm up, they can be quite. Some of them are sound markers, aren't they? But some of them can be, well, let's just say hard work. But yeah, I'll let you answer that question anyway, Marcus.
Yeah. So what was the actual question about?
What's the funniest thing you've ever said to a player for so I don't know, like a least line like we just discussed? What's the funniest thing you've kind of said to someone for intentionally marking your pitch is the question. Have you ever had anyone do it intentionally? Do you think?
Yeah, goalkeepers intentionally obviously put a mark in the 6-yard line, sometimes 18-yard box, which is a bookable offence, which never happens. This year, I've never known it. Like, players turning up, like there's pitch rules. Only the matchday squad are allowed to warm up on the pitch, and basically this year we've had teams turn up with non-matchday players, and then come up thinking they're going to do a training session on the pitch before the game. So we've had a few run-ins this year with that. A funny one was we played Everton, and I remember one that stands out. We played Everton in a pre-season friendly. I think when Mark Cooper was in charge and Luke Williams, and I went up and they were warming up in the wrong area. I went up and it was Duncan Ferguson, wasn't it? Well, I'm 2 foot nothing, so I'm small. I looked up and I was like, I went up. I didn't realise it was Duncan Ferguson, obviously, until I got there. And I'm sort of like, hello. My voice all cracks, and I sound like a little girl. And then I was like, any chance you can move over there? He just gave me that stare. I went, yes, okay, and then just moved.
Did you have your pitchfork though? Did you have your pitchfork with you?
I think I probably dropped it and wet my pants or something. But yeah, I'll never forget that one. So.
All right.
I've had massive arguments with like some coaches. Literally, like after game, they want to do stuff. Like at the end of the day, I remember following the Grimsby coach. Basically, they've come from Grimsby. They're going out and they've got like a 5-hour drive, or whatever. Then he wants to do like an hour training session on the pitch after the game. It's like, mate, just jog on, just go home. You know what I mean? Like, we're trying to do our job. So yeah, we do get in quite a few arguments, but just conflicts of interest, isn't it?
Yeah. Which town coach, Marcus, has been like the most on your back about a pitch?
I've been wanting to say this. Worst manager I ever had was Andy King, and he turned out to be the best manager I ever had. We turned out to be best friends. Like, I was a young lad at the time, and you'd probably class it as bullying then. Like, literally, he used to break my balls because I was a contractor, so I was doing Swindon's pitch through a contractor, but then I was going to have a ground. But he was old school and see me as his groundsman. So when I wasn't there, he'd just go mad, and we didn't have a lot of money. The pitch was rubbish, and he absolutely broke my balls. And then young lad took it, and then one day I stood up to him, and it almost come to like fisticuffs. And then after that, he had a lot of respect for me, and then we literally become like best mates. And every time I see him after that, like God rest his soul, he was absolutely amazing. But it helped me grow up, if you know what I mean, in the football world. In the football, because it is a different world. It's like no other job, I'd say, and no other business. It's run so different, and yeah. So I got a lot of respect for Andy, but he was the worst, but the best.
What was Paolo like?
What was Paolo like?
Yeah.
I didn't see him a lot, to be fair. I dealt with Steve Hansen, so I only seen Lee Power now and then. But
sorry, Paolo Di Canio.
Oh, Paolo. Sorry,
sorry. Speak fast.
Paolo. Basically, as a groundsman, I've always said the less you see of a manager and a chairman, the better groundsman you are, because you're doing your job. The more they want to see you, then that's when you've got problems. And with Paolo, he left me alone, and then I think we played Crystal Palace. It was a pre-season friendly, and he come out, and I was mowing the pitch, and because he wanted to start a training, I was halfway across the pitch because I didn't turn the mower off in time. He went nuts, like literally, like he expected to come out on the pitch, and everyone stopped. And the pitch struggled that year because it was quite thin because it rained all summer, so it was very thin. So he was pulling the grass apart and exposing bare soil. And apparently, he went down the tunnel and started kicking the walls, saying, "I want a new fucking groundsman," and all this. And then Nick Watkins, the chairman at the time, came out and was like, "Marcus, what's the problem?" I said, "Look, Nick," I said, "it's been raining all summer, like, because the more you cut it, the more the grass thickens out, and we couldn't cut it." So I explained to Nick what I was going to do. I got it right, so I stayed out of the way of Paolo because he was a fiery fucker, really. And then the next time I seen him, there's a little passageway where the players' entrance is. Go into the Arkle side. There's a little doorway tunnel, and I walked in there. It was the first time I'd seen Paolo in about sort of 3-4 weeks, or whatever. And the pitch was decent. And I've opened the door, and there's me and him stood there, and I'm thinking, "Oh, fucking hell." I just wanted to go the other way, and then I was like, "Paolo, okay, pitch okay? Beautiful, lovely." And that was it.
What was it like the day that he got all the fans down to clear the snow off the pitch?
Massive PR stunt. So that was quite a funny one as well. So basically, we got fans in the afternoon, and we started clearing the pitch. And by the time they'd spent about 3 hours clearing about 20 metres, the snow had come down again, and it looked like they hadn't done anything. So we gave up, and then suddenly Paolo turns up. He wants a game on. He drags everyone out there. It's all kicking off, and then he drags all his staff out there. They start shoving it on their own just to make a point. And then, fair play, all the fans turned up. And then Paolo did the radio interview, dragged me on the radio, bought everyone pizzas, and fucked off.
Love that, mate.
Have you ever caught a fan either during working hours or after working hours or after a game up to no good on the pitch?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, we've had people break in before. Once after the pitch had just been like reseeded and that, a load of people broke in. The footballing community have like little 6-a-side goals that were there for a reason, whatever, and they put them up and they had a game on the pitch. After, obviously, we've got a lot of conferences facilities and obviously parties they have at weekends. So you can have at any one time you can have like 3 parties at a weekend in different rooms, and people have got out through the fire exits and the pint glasses over the pitch. A couple of them have hung on the stanchion to hold the goal net up. They broke them. So yeah, there's people that get out there. It's quite easy to get into. Well, I shouldn't really say that actually.
Yeah, but
there's Dobermans and Alsatians like prone in it. So yeah.
You've got watchdogs. Don't worry about that.
Yeah.
Martin, you're next.
Okay, this next one is from Simon Maslin. I hope I said that right. What's a better halftime view for you, Marcus? 20 large walking footballers chewing up the pitch, or 20 season ticket holders chewing up the penalty spot?
Oh yeah. Thanks to our great chairman club. Yeah, that penalty idea wasn't the best thing, was it? At the end of the season.
Not like it's an important game or anything.
Yeah, exactly. I remember me and Alex were stood there saying, "Yeah, you watch, we get a 90th minute penalty. They're full on their ass, and yeah, it'd be my fault." But yeah, definitely walking footballers. To be fair, like they do half-time entertainment. It's part of the club. That's what they do. It does entertain it. I enjoy it. But I've had arguments over the years with football in the community, community trust or whatever. Because when they turn up with like 18, 19-year-olds, they're basically like men. But when they have the kids on there, they don't do any damage. When they have the walking footballers, it's great. It's great entertainment. So I'm all for it. But yeah, as long as they keep them young ages or old ages, yeah, not in between, then it's fine.
But he's saying that with gritted teeth. I tell you what.
Yeah, actually,
He definitely is.
Stay off my pitch.
Yeah.
Your face against Barrow, Marcus, was an absolute picture. You had a delightful shade of puce.
Yeah. But he pays my wages, so yeah, do what you want.
Exactly. He owns it, right? Let you get on with it, Gaffer. We all need more work, don't we?
Yeah.
Joe, what we got next?
We've got one from Arch on Twitter. What is the weirdest thing you've ever found on a pitch after a match?
That's quite a. I'm trying to think now.
He didn't find his corner flag last week, did he?
Yeah, I didn't find the corner flag. Yeah, hey, nor did you for like 2 days, 3 days. You get some big bones sometimes, like foxes bring in big bones. Yeah, big bones, like animal bones. Right.
How do you know they're animal bones?
Well, that's the thing, like they're that big, it looks like fucking human bones.
Did you find a Leighton Orient goalkeeper's tooth from like the 2013, 2014?
No, not a phone out. No, I've had a bit of money. We had about 25 quid from the Sheffield United playoff game. Finally, QPR was the best. We played QPR once, and they were throwing £2 coins. I was like, "Fuck me, he's definitely from London. He must be rich." Yeah.
Where do you normally find
And it's his family, was it?
Stratton Bank or Town then, Marcus? Where's the money normally found?
Mainly Stratton Bank when you have a big away game. When you got your Rovers, a big away team, your Rovers, your Bristol City, your Oxfords, whatever. Yeah. But no, I haven't really found anything too much. One day I come in after we had a storm, like back in the day, like back in like early 2000s, and after the fucking hardcore stand was stuck in the pitch, all the asbestos were like literally dug into the pitch. That was quite interesting.
So blown down and fully embedded.
Oh, it must have, yeah, it would have killed someone. Like,
Oh.
Yeah.
Blimey.
It's the lovely red stuff before the game that's the problem.
Oh yeah, well those streamers, yeah, that's great Russian Reds, whatever, bloody, yeah. They need to buy me some new nets.
See, me personally, I quite like the old marble dye. I think that's a good look, Marcus. I think you should just run with it.
Yeah, sorry.
No. Here's another question for you. So this one was anonymous asked to remain anonymous via Twitter. Is it true, Marcus, that do you ever go commando to avoid soggy pants and chafing from the sprinklers?
Well, I said to you earlier, I wear my Speedos now and then in the summer. But it'd be a sight for sore eyes, so I won't put that on anyone. So
commando, no, he's not a commando. All right, we'll give you that. We'll bring Chris back in for the next one.
Is it true that when you were a younger adolescent, Marcus Cassidy had a thing for a good lawnmower?
No, I didn't. To be fair, I didn't even get into the industry until I was 19, I think. So I didn't have a clue about grass until I was 19. So I used to dig holes in the road. I used to basically fix burst water mains. So yeah, the grass thing only came in when I was about 19.
Oh, all right.
Late starter.
Yeah, a late bloomer, some might say. Alex, you're on.
Another task for you, mate. Go to your bedroom, locate and describe your pyjamas. That's from Pep. I'm not sure it's Guardiola, but that's via Twitter.
Pyjamas? Oh, this is going to go down a shitstorm. I'm wearing my Plymouth away top.
Oh my god!
Oh no!
Yeah, I got my Plymouth fur kit on, which I think Alex actually got for me before he said anything from the kit man when we played them. And I got my Calvin Klein pajama bottoms on. So,
oh God Almighty!
But
I'm paying you too much, mate.
I must say, at the end of the day, my dad's from Plymouth. I grew up a Plymouth fan. But working at Swindon, being there for so long, if Plymouth ever play Swindon, I want the draw. But if it was ever going for like the championship or whatever, then I'd always support Swindon, because the better Swindon do, the better I do, the more budget I get. So in my heart, it's Plymouth, but in my head, it's always Swindon.
So you'd sell your soul for money, basically, you shameless individual.
No. I'd sell my soul for the pitch. I'll get more money for the pitch.
Martin, what's the next one?
Okay, this is an anonymous one again. What is the strangest injury you have suffered tending to the county ground carpet?
I was on the phone one day. I was divoting the pitch, and when I took the phone call, I was by the dugouts, and I went to smash the fork into the floor, and obviously because I was on my phone, I put it through my foot. Whilst all the cleaners were like cleaning the stands and just laughing at me whilst I'm rolling around on the floor. Yeah, no sympathy.
Oh, so were you lucky? Were we talking broken bones, or was it a nice clean insertion?
Yeah, it just pierced the skin. It was just like a hole. Yeah.
And you still like that fork?
It's the same fork, actually.
So was it literally sort of stuck in your foot and you had to like jam it back out again, or was it like an in and out thing?
It was in and out. Yeah, in and out, but it almost touched the bone. So. Was it a gusher, Marcus? No, it wasn't actually. I think it was at all. It was just like a hole. So, yeah.
Maybe you were dehydrated that day. Maybe it was just
probably.
Oh, bloody hell! The thought of it.
Yeah.
The thought of it. Right.
Yeah,
Joe, you're next.
We should have put this one at the start, shouldn't we, really? It just says, this is from Paul Merriman on Twitter. Hi, Marcus. Is the grass greener on the other side?
It depends what side you're stood on.
Pragmatic approach.
Valid.
Yeah, it depends what side you're stood on. And also, I'm pretty colourblind, so to me, the grass looks brown anyway. Yeah. So, it's not always greener, to be fair. I've had job offers. I've had chances to go to like bigger clubs and all that. But I think it isn't always greener. I'm happy at Swindon. I've been there so long. It's like a family. I like living in the area, like between Stonehouse in Gloucestershire and Swindon. Like I said, I almost went to FC Utrecht 2 years ago near Amsterdam. Plymouth offered me a job, Forest Green. So I've had chances to go away, but it's basically my home, really.
Good, lad.
Like doing this thing now, it's friends, you know what I mean? It is like a big family.
Yeah.
So the grass isn't always greener. I could have gone for more money. Don't get me wrong, my wage is okay, but I just love my job. I love where I work. I love my pitch. I don't think I could ever leave, to be fair.
If only football managers had the same attitude, eh, Marcus?
Now, ladies and gentlemen, listeners, there is loyalty in football. Good on you, Marcus. I mean, without going into too much detail and naming names, Marcus, are there like very, very lucrative roles out there, as in the life-changing roles in the groundsman gig?
Yeah, there is. When I was a contractor, when I worked for Sports Turf, like I said before, doing Swindon's pitch but working at other clubs, I used to work at Aston Villa and Wolverhampton was two of our contracts, and Jonathan, who I worked with, he was in charge of Villa and Wolves. He's now the head groundsman at Paris Saint-Germain on £250,000 a year. Put both his children up in a private school, give him a car and everything. And he's probably the best stadium groundsman in the world. And he came from Glentoran in Northern Ireland. So it shows you can go there. Paul Burgess went from Blackpool to Arsenal to Real Madrid. So you can't make it. But the thing is, with the Premiership teams now, they tend to promote within. So basically, they'll have someone at the training ground, they just promote them. So there is jobs out there, but there's a lot of jobs out in Qatar for the World Cup. There has been for the last 3-4 years. And English groundsmen are regarded as the best in the world. So as a young up-and-coming English groundsman, there's massive opportunity. But obviously, I know I look a lot younger, but I'm like in my 40s now. So for me, like I said, I'm sort of stuck in my ways, and it's for the younger generation really to go out and get those jobs. But there is massive jobs out there.
Well,
mother.
Yeah.
I should have been a groundsman.
You mentioned Qatar, Marcus, actually, because I mean it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, obviously you've got sort of semi-artificial pitches out there, from what I understand, for the World Cup, but I mean they've got a challenge on their hands, haven't they, out there in those conditions?
Yeah. Basically, it's humidity and the temperature. So I looked at jobs like that, and basically you've got to go work at 5 o'clock in the mornings, air-conditioned stadiums, and then you're only allowed to work till about 10 or 11. Then you've got to go home for the day. Then you go back at sort of 6, 7 at night and work right through the night. Because it's just, otherwise you're just, well, basically you dehydrate and it's just dangerous.
Yeah, end up sticking a fork through your foot.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Like that in England. I've just got a text off my daughter. Here's a question. Why's your pitch shit?
Tell her she's clearly misinformed.
Yeah, cheers, Olivia. Thank you very much, sir.
Bless her. What's the I mean, carry on that Qatar theme, Marcus. Are those the kind of pitches that, do you think at the end of the World Cup, like they're going to have like had their lifespan, or is there longevity there because of the artificial aspect of it?
Well, basically, it's not artificial. It's only about 3 to 5% artificial. Yep. So they weave these fibres into the pitch, which gives it stability. So it looks like normal grass, which it is. Then if you pull the grass back, you can see a little bit of plastic, but it's only 3 to 5%.
Yeah.
So there's this assumption that it's like artificial. It's not. It's just a reinforcement. It goes 18 centimetres into the soil, into the sand. That's what gives the roots bind around it and gives it as reinforcement. But with Qatar, they've got a massive plan. Because obviously with the Brazil, when was Brazil World Cup? Because all the stadiums went to shit then, didn't they?
14.
2014, they all went to shit. But there is plans in place with Qatar just because of the money. But what they do with FIFA, when they have a World Cup, for the next 3, 4, 5 years, they have like the under-17s World Cup a year later. They have the Women's World Cup. They have the under-18s, the under-19s. So for at least 4 or 5 years, it will be used.
Yeah, it needs to be, because there are like there's loads of stories, aren't there? Like, European Championships, World Cups, things like that, and you end up seeing dilapidated stadiums 5, 6 years down the line that have just gone to waste, that could have been used in the community and whatnot. Yeah,
after Brazil, I think after Brazil they changed it a bit, and like I said, they put any FIFA tournament on for those years after to keep it going.
Yeah, gotcha. All right, I've got another question for you, Marcus.
Yep.
This is from Mark on Twitter. Marcus, isn't it true that Marcus is just a posh Mark with an inferiority complex?
Marcus was a Roman emperor, wasn't he?
Oh, for Christ's sake.
He sticks you up there.
I'm desperately trying to find some sort of reference to a posh Tory twat or something like that, and you drop a Roman emperor on me.
Yeah, there you go.
Chris, moving us along, Chris.
Marcus, in the words of the Mock Turtles, can you dig it?
Yes, I can.
If he gets me to do it.
As your foot as ball witness.
Yeah.
What would you say is the strangest thing you've ever dug?
It's not a mole.
You could class me as an undertaker, because I've buried about over 100 people in the pitch.
All of them are all yellow.
Yeah, basically people that they bury their ashes. So people that obviously pass away. So we get a lot of requests. Probably had about 5 this season. So we dig a little hole on the edge of the grass where it meets the gravel, and we bury people's ashes. So that's probably the strangest thing I've done, really.
That's interesting. So, have you ever been asked to sprinkle across the pitch?
We don't sprinkle it because it burns the grass. The ashes burns the grass for some reason, whatever's in it.
People.
Some sort of, yeah. Yeah, I hope so. Yeah. So that's what we did.
And is that very? I mean, I'm guessing it must be, Mark. So, are the family there when these things happen? Like, do you have to be?
Yeah, definitely. They request, they contact the club. Then I dig a little hole, and then the family come in, and we sort of vacate the stadium to give them their privacy.
Yeah.
Because you don't want people just carry on working around cleaning seats, say it's a Monday morning after a game. You know what
Yeah.
Give them a little privacy. Some of them are there for like briefly, like a few minutes. Some of them are there for like an hour. So we give them their respects. They bury the ashes, and then they usually put a bit of dirt on top, and then obviously I'll fill the hole in after. So yeah.
Wow. It's one of those. It's an interest, like you said. Whilst obviously this is all about a little bit of banter tonight. It's one of those. It's quite a nice thing to think that you've got all those people that have spent decades and decades following our football club, and after their passing, there's still a place for them in the ground, and I mean, personally, Marcus, hopefully not too soon, but it's certainly an aim of mine. But at the same time, you sort of burst my bubble because I've told my kids, right, I expect to be sprinkled all over the town in Goalmouth, and that's clearly not going to happen. But still, all right, I'll take a little patch alongside the pitch. Right then,
brilliant.
Martin, what we got next?
Next is from Jimmy Ray. Martin, can you tell me your best story about the old tea hut?
Luckily, the walls don't speak. We've had a few discos in there after staff parties. I've slept in there a few times, but I can't divulge too much. What happens in the tea hut stays in the tea hut.
You spoil.
And the tea hut's gone now anyway, so we got a new mess room, so might have to have a few discos in there and see what happens about the stories in that one.
Might have to have a word with Steve and Jonah and get a recording device or two in there if it's as good as I'm suggesting it might be, or I feel it might be.
Use your own imagination.
Yeah, well, yes, indeed, I might just do that. I've got copies of Pitch Care. We've got flying pitchforks. We've got all sorts of stuff going on in there. Right, what we got next? Martin, you've got another one to ask.
Yeah, it's me again. It's a 3 potential answer question. So you come into the county ground and you see Clem, Rob and Rockin' Robin taking penalties on your newly seeded pitch. Do you say A, get off my land, B, Clem, would you mind awfully getting off the pitch, or C, you say nothing, you just put your fork through the football? And that's from Daz Smith on Twitter.
I'd like to think I'll put the fork through the football. That's my initial reaction, but then Clem's the boss, so straight away I would do that. I guess because Clem's the boss, I just have to go take out Rocky Robin, won't I? Just fucking two-foot him or something.
give him the old Paolo right up the jacksie.
Yeah, just 2 foot. I know who Rocky Robin is as well, Paul Wiltshire. So I'd have to take him out. That'd have to be the answer.
Max, what we got next?
All right, this one's from Jamie Watts again via Twitter. Had Marcus and the team been on duty at Wembley, or had it been at the county ground, would Austin have scored that day? Infamous dodgy Gate and all that. So the 2010 final.
Yeah, I was there. Yeah.
Like, how bad was the pitch that day? Like, how in comparison to, say, the county ground pitch?
Because they were having trouble, weren't they, Marcus, initially at Wembley?
Yeah, they were, but in any game you're going to get bobbles. It doesn't matter how good the pitch is. Sometimes it's not the pitch, it's the way to kick the ball. Like sometimes if you kick the top of the ball, it's going to bounce along, so it looks like it's bobbling. But it did bobble, and the pitch was bad at Wembley at the time. A lot better now, but it's just one of those things. It's like a 1 in a million chance. Like at any point to bubble, it bobbled at that point. You know what I mean? I couldn't have done any different.
Did you know the groundsman was back then, Marcus? Because I've got a story. Some people have heard it. I don't think I've told you this.
I think was it Anthony Stones at the time?
I think it was Anthony Stones. So
yeah.
I won't bore on too much about this, but the week after the essentially last games of the season, I was invited to go and have a game at Wembley, and it's the first time I'd ever been on the pitch. Right now, I know there's an etiquette and all the rest of it, right? But we were allowed to wear studs, and we've come out. The 2 teams have come out, lined up in the dressing room, lined up in the tunnel, went out on the pitch, and being a goalkeeper, they were expecting me to go straight to the area. I've gone straight over to the point where the bobble was. And you imagine Wembley's silent, apart from a few lads on the pitch having a kick about. I've gone up to this point in the pitch, and I've just completely lost it. I've jumped up and down like 6-7 times. You bastard! Top of my voice. and the groundsman has literally, he's given me the Marcus Cassidy death stare.
I
And
bet
he's
he
come,
thought, who's this fucking psycho?
yeah, and he's literally come walking across the pitch, and he's grabbed me by my top, and he went, "What the fucking hell do you think you're doing at my pitch?"
Yeah.
And I literally turned to him and I went, "Sorry, mate, I'm a Swindon Town fan." And he literally gave me a little pat on the arm, went, "All right, fair one, enjoy your game,"
Fair play.
and jogged off.
Fair play to him. Yeah.
Right.
He's at Stade de France now, I think. So.
Stade de France, Corey, he's done all right for himself, hasn't he? He's done all right.
The rugby ground. So.
Well, here's another question for you, Marcus. So this is from Steve via Twitter, and Steve says, "Have you ever suffered lawn envy, and at the hands of whom did you suffer it?"
Anybody's pitch that looks decent when I watch the goals on Quest or whatever's on there. If I get home and watch the goals, any pitch that looks good, I just get jealous.
Who makes you the most? Which ground? Who's reputed to have the best ground? For example, in League Two at the moment, Mark? Is it us, or is there anyone else that's giving you a run for your money?
Yeah, basically our pitch is very old. I've already looked out for the opposition next year for pitch of the year, and Newport, even though they've got one rugby team now instead of two, they put a £1.5 million pitch in, and they won pitch of the year this year, which is an absolute joke because you've got a £1.5 million pitch in, you've got to win it, haven't you? So the marking system is rubbish. Wimbledon have got a brand new stadium and a brand new hybrid pitch, and again, it's like a £1.5 million pitch. So they're both good pitches. And then there's a couple of others in this league. But again, I go back to ours is very old, so we punch above our weight. So it makes ours even more that better, if you know what I mean. But yeah, so I'll be looking out for their pitches this season with envy. Going to be knocking on Clem's door saying, "Why can't I have a £1.5 million pitch?" But yeah, any pitch that looks decent. Yeah, and yeah, I'm good friends with the lad at Plymouth as well. Like all groundsmen keep in contact with each other. You know what I mean? It's a small industry in a way, the professional side of it, and it's good. Like a lot of us keep in contact with each other. Tommy and Envy are Ralphie at Plymouth. He does a good job down there. They got a decent pitch. So every time I speak to him, see what he's doing, he sees what I'm doing. And every time he tells me something, I just think, "Yeah, you prick."
Is there an etiquette, Marcus? Do you ever for example, in retail, if you're short of a few coins in the till, you'll pop next door into I don't know whoever's, and they're sort of, do you have that is there a groundsman equivalent? My tractor's broke down, or I'm out of feed.
Definitely. I know this probably won't go down too well, fans. I've lent my lawnmowers to Bristol City before. When Bristol City have had a rugby game on a Friday, and they've had to turn it around to Bristol Bears on a Friday night, then they've had a 12 o'clock kickoff football game on a Saturday. Povey, who does Ashton Gate Stadium, he's second in charge, but he does the stadium on his own. He's a Swindon fan. He did work experience with me. He lives in Swindon, so he asked me, rang me up, said, "Look, we borrow your little mowers and all that." And I expect them to repay the favour. You know what I mean? Further down the line, I've borrowed products off different clubs. I do a bit of consulting for Nuneaton Borough through Ty Balford, because Ty Balford and his brother Cam Balford and his dad, they're involved with Nuneaton. They asked me to go up and look at their pitch, and I did that. Just didn't get nothing from it, just helping them out. You know what I mean? Because Ty was a nice lad. So yeah, we do a lot of that sort of stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, on the Bristol City, you were helping the Swindon Town fan out, mate. Let's just be honest about it. You weren't helping those Herberts out. So...
Yeah, exactly.
Right, what we got next, Joe?
Where are we? Okay, so Siren Dave on Twitter has asked, was it due to the fact of how bad he was playing at football, the major factor in him becoming one of the best, if not the best groundsperson in the league?
Oh, good question.
So what? Oh, I didn't get the start. I missed the start. Was that?
So basically, is it because you were so bad at football that you've ended up becoming a ledge of a groundsman?
I know Siren Dave, but I can't think who it is. I wasn't that bad at football. I just kept getting sent off. That was the problem. So,
what sort of player were you, Marcus? Well, I can imagine you were a bit of a ratter in the centre midfield. Would that be fair? Were you a Lee Collins?
I was right back, right wing. I used to when I was a teenager, I used to do county sprinting, and then I played rugby until I was at 16. And then I never grew, like, so I'm still the same size I am now, which is like short of nothing. And then started playing football and I had little man syndrome. So I just used to kick fuck out of people. So, and then the more people I kicked, I kept breaking my toe. And then when I was working with the contractors, they stopped me from playing because I was off work every bloody other week because I kept breaking my toe. Ended up having an operation on it. Yeah, so I was alright at football, just didn't stay on the pitch long enough.
Just an angry guy with a broken toe. Yeah. Fair dude. Yeah. Alex, what have we got next?
So Jay via WhatsApp could be someone we know potentially. He wants to know, Marcus, who knows more about grass, you or Snoop?
I don't know that sort of stuff about grass. Yeah, if that's what he's insinuating.
I thought you had magic grass at home with you there, Marcus.
I've got some nice big lights where I could grow some, which Clem bought me. So yeah, we could go down that route.
A bit of extra funding.
God, let's always have 1.5 million.
Could go into the players' fund, couldn't it? I've got all the hydroponics, got all the fertilizers to go on it. So yeah, could be a Swindon Town transfer fund. That could.
Oh my, yeah. You could get away with it. I'm sure. I've just noticed that Wiltshire Police are now listening in with interest, and we thank them for their attention. And yeah, welcome aboard, boys. And I'm sure Marcus at the end will be available to share his address. Chris, probably best you move us along quickly.
Okay, Mr. Argyle, what you having in your ginsters fake pasty? You wrong un.
What am I fake pasty?
What are you having in your ginsters fake pasty?
Well, it's got to be a traditional one, hasn't it? Traditional one. So, can't have ginsters. They're fucking horrible, aren't they?
Oh, that's the correct answer. You see, now there's a real test of whether you're a proper Argyle fan. That must wound them. In all fairness, that must wound them. Like, you know, the Plymouth fans having to walk around with ginsters on their shirt because they know the score.
Oh yeah, that's why I don't wear my shirt. I'm not a big fan of wearing shirts anyway, so that's why I just wear it to bed when I'm cold. So walking down fucking Stonehouse High Street or on the train to Swindon with fucking Ginsters written on you.
I think they've entered the sponsorship this season. I think Ginsters.
Oh, I think really. Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
Shows how much attention I paid for it, doesn't it?
No, I really don't get that sponsorship. You're trying to sell pasties to people in Devon. Like, no, you know, I understand the brand perception issues, but I'm not buying that at all. That's not exactly. Yeah, I can understand why the product manager's been told to go and invest his budget elsewhere. Right, what we got next? Max, you're up, buddy.
Right, Marcus, do you cry when you strip the pitch at the end of the season? 12 months of hard work gone in one day.
Absolute total opposite, to be honest. I absolutely buzz from it. You go through the season, it's quite weird as a groundsman. This time of the year, you get to the end of the season, you go through obviously the winter. The winter's quite slow, you're not doing a lot. You've got frozen pitches, it's raining, you're getting it ready for a game. Then you're basically doing sort of like 3-4 days work in 2 days, which is when I get Alex and Disco Darren in. That's another story, Disco Darren. But yeah, so you're condensing all your work into getting it done around the weather. So when the spring comes, it warms up again, you get a bit more busier, you get a bit more growth. But then when the renovation comes, it's just totally different. It's 24/7. Like I think last week we've travelled from Stonehouse, which is like an hour and a half round trip. I did 75 hours, and I love it. I absolutely love it because what you're doing, it gives you a buzz, and what you're doing, if you put the effort in now, what you do in your renovation determines your whole season. If you get it wrong now, then come late autumn, early winter, the pitch can go from amazing to like absolutely shit in no time. But if you get everything right now, and then you've got your fundamental things like your aeration program, your fertilizing program, your spraying program, if that's on point throughout the winter, it takes care of itself. So now I'm literally, like I said, I'm absolutely knackered from the hours I'm doing, but I love it.
You're gonna reap what you sow, as the song says.
Yeah, exactly. So when that pitch comes up, I'm absolutely buzzing because I know it's going to be better. Because each year we will make it better.
Aye.
I feel like we can't move on without getting some sort of Disco Darren story.
I think we've got to hear about Disco Darren.
Disco Darren.
That's another show in itself, Marcus, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, I'll let Alex explain this one actually.
I don't know where to start, Marcus, really, but I know he's a top lad. There's no words to really explain him. He comes in and obviously helps Marcus out. He's just a character. That's all I can really say.
Basically, Disco Darren, we call him Disco. He's an ex-raver. So back in the day, he used to go raving, and basically, it gets to the point where we're sat in a tier having a drink at like 10 o'clock, whatever, having a cup of tea, cup of coffee. And you got to tell him to fucking sit down because he's fucking dancing around the bloody tier, like off his rocker.
Marcus has let him loose on the. So we've got different types of mowers, obviously, and the Dennis cylinder mower, which we do obviously a pre-match cut with. So we've kind of trained him up and let him loose on that. But some days he's unbelievable on it, and other days he's, trying to get straight lines. And I've started what have I started calling him? DJ Snaky, because of his snaky lines. So yeah, he's got like a plethora of nicknames now. Bless him.
Yeah.
Now, Marcus, you've already answered the next question, which Martin was going to pose to you. But I think, and you've answered it with Ben Gladwin. But Martin, do you want to ask this question? Maybe add a little twist to it if you need to.
All right, yeah. So you have already said Gladwin about this one, but what player, past or present, excluding Ben Gladwin, has always moaned about the pitch, or even give a top three, like rank 1 to 3, which players, past and present, have done the most moaning about it?
Oh, that's a tough one actually, because I think a lot of the time I hear it third hand, if you know what I mean. Then it gets to the manager, and the manager can moan at me. Don't get me wrong, Ben's alright. I do get on with Ben before everyone starts to say things, I get pulled up at work this week. Leave this bag of Ben off. No, actually, obviously, fuck it. Well, you should moan at me, should he? I remember Steve Robinson scored 2 goals against Oxford.
Turbo,
yeah. I remember he didn't have a go at me, but I remember he broke his ankle on the county ground, and I had my operation on my toe, so I was off work and I went in on crutches. I remember him absolutely hammering me, basically saying, "Hey, you got some of your own medicine." Fucking yeah. But he wasn't really blaming me, but he was just having a crack. But I don't think everyone, off the top of my head, I don't think I can remember anyone actually moaning to me.
Would you rank your thinking about all the managers you've had, Marcus? I think the numbers got to be pushing 20 surely. But
Alex looked at this. I think it's 21 permanent managers and something like 33 in total with interim managers and caretakers.
Blimey. So rank them, mate, if you can, 1 to 3. The biggest moaner down to your top 3 moaners.
Andy King to start with, like I said, but then he was absolutely amazing. So that's good and smooth, good and bad. Sorry. Morris Malpass. Fuck yeah, now. Obviously, that was before Sturrock come in, and then obviously I think we were in administration, or we were going into administration. So the pitch was crap. I was working for the contractors. He was putting me left, right, and centre all over the country. Wouldn't put me in at Swindon because they weren't paying the bill. And then I'd walk through the tunnel, and literally within like a day or two of seeing him, I walked through the tunnel, and you see me go, "Hey, boy, your pitch is fucking shite." And that was it. I walked off.
Thanks for that motivational speech, Morris.
Honestly, your pitch is fucking shite. And then I walk off, and I was like, "Oh, all right." And then I remember going over to, obviously I live near Cheltenham, Stonehouse not far from Cheltenham, and I went over. I knew the Cheltenham groundsman at the time, and I went over to a reserve game, Swindon reserve game, and he was sat in the stand on his own. And I thought, actually, I'm fucking having it out here. So I went up and just sat next to him, and he sort of looking at me like, "All right, you weirdo." And I was like, "What's your problem, mate?" And I explained the situation. And after that, to be fair, he wasn't too bad. And another one was Kevin McDonald. Fucking hell. From the moment he fucking saw me, he fucking hated me. So he's rocked up Thursday. I'm at the train station, and then just getting the train home, obviously. And then I get a phone call saying, "Oh, Kevin McDonald's here. He's training on the pitch tomorrow." His first day there, day before a game, training on the pitch. So I walked all the way back. I thought, I've got to go see him and all that. You know what I mean? Can't just fuck off home. So I went back, I walked in the office, in the secretary office, and he just looked at me up and down, just in disgust. And I'm like, mate, look, if you train on the pitch, you're going to wreck it. Get my opinion. And he just like grunted at me. And then the next time I seen him, again, down the tunnel, you got where Ray Murphy sits now, the secretary's room, and Rob Angus and I knocked on the door, I've opened the door, and he just answered and just went, "What the fuck do you want?" And that was it. Second time I've ever met him.
What a gent.
Yeah. And then after that, he just fucking hated me, and he just trained on the pitch all the time. That was when we got to the playoffs and lost to Brentford, I believe.
Yeah.
We lost to Brentford away, wasn't it, on penalties?
Yeah.
And then Mark Cooper was obviously assistant manager, and I still speak to Coops now. Get on with him very well. He was at Forest Green, so when Swindon weren't playing, I used to go up and see Coops and just. I didn't even really watch Forest Green. It's just go up and have a drink and have a chat with him. So Coops was great, but yeah, Kevin McDonald and Maurice Malpaz. The rest of them are pretty good, to be fair.
What about the famous Pterodactyl? I don't think he said a word to Milieu, Marcus, during that season, did he?
Sheridan didn't even know I was his groundsman.
No.
Honestly.
We didn't know he was our manager.
Yeah. Honestly. Yeah. I think he nodded at me once through the tunnel, and that was it. Yeah. Yeah. But,
I don't think our tactics board ever knew that he was a tactician.
No, exactly. Yeah.
Right, moving us on then. What we got, Joe?
Got a question from Martin on Twitter. Is the 100 tons of sand on the pitch still giving you nightmares?
It wasn't 100 tons. Is that Martin Gabb?
It might be, yes.
I'm not too sure.
Yeah, I had an incident back in. Well, I had many of incidents, but I had one back in 2000. I think it's 2015, and basically the club. We were going to do a mini renovation in October, and the club didn't pay the bill for the sand. Then I went to Egypt on holiday. So I don't get time off in the summer, so there was a gap in the fixtures. Preston was called off because of the international call-ups, and then there was a gap, and they rearranged the game for when I was away. So I had to go away anyway, and then they paid for the sand when I was away, but it was too late to put it on. And then basically I got back from Egypt, and it was the start of November, the weather turned, and I panicked, and basically I threw my hands up, you know what I mean? I'm not scared to say I made a mistake. But it was Steve Allison's fault because he didn't pay the bill in time. And then I put the sand on, the weather changed, and the pitch just it was like a beach. It rained constantly, so yeah, that's what Martin's alluding to. And then I remember I got loads of shit from it. There's a sign, we got a sign what we put on the dugout which says please keep off the pitch. And I remember I was sort of leaning on it one day, speaking to Mark Cooper, a lot of the office staff, and they were laughing at me. And I'm like, why are they fucking laughing at me? Like, then it wasn't until I looked down, they changed the sign that was in front of me, what I couldn't see, to say please keep off the pitch, to please keep off the beach. And then there's a picture of me, Chris Tanner, the old media bloke, he got an old picture of me walking off the pitch with corner flags, and he superimposed a donkey, a bucket and spade, and a beach on it, and plastered it all around the fucking club. So wherever I walk around the club, there was all these pictures of that. So to be fair, they made light of it, but yeah, that's what Martin's alluding to, I think.
I get you. Right, Alex, move us along, mate.
You give me some great questions here, Hannes. Jesus. This one's from your.
I'll just cut and paste them.
Marcus, from Matt Povey.
Oh, fucking hell, yeah.
How can you grow such a thick, luscious lawn but can't grow a blade of hair on your head?
Oh, that's a low blow. Cheap shot.
Mate, I embraced the fact that I got no hair. I've been like that since I was 15. He's the lad that's at Bristol City, the shithead. The Swindon shithead. Well, ask him why he can't grow no fucking grass at Ashton Gate. Then we'll talk.
Yeah, bravo. I might also point out, Marcus, that Steve Hale highlighted that ball jokes are now regarded in law as sexual harassment. So feel free to take that up with Bristol City's legal eagles in the morning.
Yeah, I will do.
Chris, what we got next?
We've actually had this one before.
Oh yes, we have. Well, Chris, Use your creative license.
Oh. Now you put me on the spot.
You've got to be careful there, Chris.
Yeah.
So basically, someone's actually asked here, Marcus,
Yeah.
about can I have my ashes scattered on the pitch when I die? That was Scooby7. You've answered that.
Yeah.
But is there any other? I guess the other way of looking at it, is there any other arrangements you're aware of around the ground, or have been any other requests aside from the pitch?
Regarding
like how to fulfill a loved one's wishes after their ultimate moment.
No, literally, it's just can we scatter the ashes, and then we just say no, we can be burying. That's the only one I'm aware of. Yeah.
Can you fulfill a loved one's wishes before you die on the pitch?
Without the what? Sorry, on the pitch.
Can you fulfill a loved one's wishes or I don't know. It's shit. I'm talking shit.
Sacrifice.
Can you have sex on the pitch? Is what I was trying to get at.
Yeah, I don't. Like I said, we've never requested anything else, so I wouldn't know. That's one for the stadium manager.
Yeah.
I'll be sending them out tomorrow morning.
What's have you had any peculiar requests, Marcus, in terms of people wanting to do stuff around or on the pitch?
Oh, there was the year where we had some Egyptian TV company turn up, and basically they were filming this, like, you remember what's the film with Santiago Menunez? Is it Goal?
Oh, Goal, yes.
Is it Goal? Santiago Menunez, whatever his name is. Well, they had the Egyptian version of that. They had the Egyptian version of that, and they wanted red seats, and they were supposed to go to Arsenal. They ran out of money, so they come to Swindon, and basically we had to turn the floodlights on. They were filming the Egyptian version of Goal or whatever on the county ground pitch, and obviously I'd gone home because I thought I ain't staying around for this shit. And then I remember the stadium manager ringing me up saying they wanted to put 30 ton of sand on the pitch and put some camels on that, and I fucking believed them. So I almost literally fucking got in my car and like drove to Swindon because I was literally losing my nut, and then they ran me up and said we're taking a piss. But the fact that I believed them, so yeah, that was quite a strange request. But yeah, they filmed So some people in Egypt that year were watching the Egypt version of Goal in Swindon Town's pitch. Yeah.
How about that? I never knew that we even featured. Nonetheless, Max, what we got next?
Right, so this one from Steve Curtis on Twitter. He said that he's got a mate who's an electrician, and there's loads of odd electrical jobs around the house, and that you're finishing, like blowing bulbs, hanging cables, stuff like that. With this in mind, what's the state of your lawn at home?
Well, there's loads of hanging cables around, places falling down, to be fair. But when I lived in Swindon, I had a club flat before. There was no garden because I lived in the flat.
Did you not have a nice? What about a nice window box, Marcus? You must have had a nice window box.
Nah. Basically, if I get my own place or whatever, or a place where I'm actually staying, because I go between Swindon, I go between Stonehouse, live with my best mate, live with my parents sometimes. Basically, when I get home, I can't be fucked. Like, the last thing I want to do is do the garden. So when I used to live with one of my old house mates, Gardy, like, he used to take the piss out of me because I used to drive like 50 yards to the shop, and he's like, "You lazy fucker," and I'm like, "Mate, I walked like 20 miles today." Because literally at the height of the summer, like in a day, you can easily walk 20 miles cutting the pitch, like a couple of times a day. And I'm like, when I get home, I don't want to fucking walk to the shop. You know what I mean? The last thing I want to do. I don't want to do the garden.
Yeah, no, that's a fair one.
I rate that.
Yeah.
What we got next, Joe?
So thankfully, it's my last question of the evening, so I don't embarrass myself again. Got Steve via Twitter. In an episode of Come Dine With Me, a guy once painted his grass green for the cameras. Would you recommend Epsom salt, liquid fertiliser, and green food colouring as a good DIY alternative?
It's got to be liquid fertiliser, because that's what I paint my pitch with. So, yeah.
Epsom salt? Do you really put Epsom salt on a pitch?
No, liquid fertilizer. I don't even know what Epsom salt is. What is Epsom salt?
Epsom salts, don't you take that for indigestion? Green food colouring, for Christ's sake. I mean, Marcus, come on. Is that a tool of the trade?
No. Liquid fertilizer. Fertilizer and iron.
Someone spray painted their pitch green, didn't they, a few seasons ago, and the players had white shirts on. I can't remember who it was, but they had like white kits on, and they come off, and obviously they were the grass of the paint just rubbed off on all their kits.
Yeah, basically, Steve and Jonah, the kitman, they moan at me because the stuff you put on grass nowadays to make it green, it does come off on white stuff, on white kit and all that. But you can, it's massive in American football. You can get a pigment, it's called a grass pigment, and you basically spray it green. But we make the grass green in England, we make it green through the plant being healthy. But the products we put on there, like stuff like iron, naturally makes it green. But you can actually spray it. You can actually spray it green. Yeah.
Interesting. It's a little bit like as a gentleman that's politically challenged myself, Marcus. That kind of feels like that spray on hair. You know, your bald patch sort of disguiser, whatever you refer to it as. It feels like that's just massive cheating, spraying your pitch, surely.
Yeah, exactly. It is. Yeah, but that's like I said, it's massive in America. But that's Americans for you, isn't it? They want the biggest and the greenest thing going. You know what I mean?
All chat, no bat.
Yeah, exactly. But we make it green through natural processes and stuff we put on it. So
very good too. Well, you got your penultimate question from Chris here, Marcus.
Yeah.
So we're almost done with you.
Okay.
What we got, Chris?
I was just saying, what would be the best way to kill all the grass at the Kassam? You know, a proper job where they couldn't get anything green there for years.
Send the lad that did it before, that put STFC in your pitch. Send him up there with a load of glyphosate weed killer, which I've got a bit hanging around if he needs it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do that to a fellow Groundsman without me knowing.
Have there ever been any stories, Marcus, of groundsmen committing such offences against fellow groundsmen? Is there anything in groundsman folklore?
Do you know what? I think there is. I can't recall it off the top of my head, but I'm sure there is. I can recall something, but it was that long ago. I think I read something somewhere. But yeah, there has been a bit of skullduggery, should we say? I think it was more on golf courses.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, but that was a long time ago. But I have recalled something. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, look, your final question, and everyone gets asked this on Silly Questions, Marcus.
Okay. Yeah.
The Kaiser Chiefs predicted a riot. What does Marcus Cassidy predict?
A riot. A fucking hurricane.
A red and white promotional hurricane. How about that?
Yeah, definitely.
Marvelous. What's a bit of, you know, obviously it would be wrong of us to speculate, but I'm just going to use that word hypothetical, Marcus. Is there any who, if you could have a choice of a gaffer to come back should our current incumbent decide to disappear? Yeah. Is there anyone that you, based on your personal experience, would welcome back with open arms?
I'm obviously going to say Mark Cooper because I got on very well with him, and I do think he's a good manager. And he was a very good boss to me, but that's just my personal opinion and my working relationship with him. But I think I'd like to see him go down after my experiences of all the managers I've had, like all 31 of them, whatever, with interim managers, caretakers. I'd like to see him go down the route. Like Ben Garner was quite unknown, wasn't he? They got a style of play they want to do. They got a project they want to do. So I'd like to see him getting a young player who was obviously like going down your sort of Michael Carrick person. I'm not just saying him, but that sort of mould.
Yeah.
Someone that's been at the top. They're going to find their way in the game and all that, and they got to start somewhere. Yep. But also Garrick. Is it Bromley? Not Bromley.
Boreham Wood.
Boreham Wood. Yeah. Luke Garrick. Yeah, I remember him as a player. I wouldn't mind seeing him given a go, but would he get the respect that the older players need to give him? You know what I mean? Because he's younger than me. He's very young. He's late 30s. He left the game quite early, but he's done very well. So yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd like to see a young up and coming person, really.
Yeah.
Because the game has evolved. Like, I've seen it over the years. So I don't profess to be like a massive football fan who knows all this. I don't follow football that much because I see it every day. I sort of lose interest in it. But you don't want, like, it has evolved. You don't want to see, like, don't get me wrong, Phil Brown was brilliant. Flitcroft was brilliant to me. But they're sort of like, to me, the game's moved on. It's evolved. So everything's different, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a young man's game, I think. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no, I'll make you right. Of course, we're speaking hypothetically, Marcus. We are speaking hypothetically because who knows what the coming 7 to 10 days before our illustrious owner boards that plane back to Sydney. Who knows what it might bring?
Yeah.
But well, look, there you go, Marcus. Those were your silly questions.
Thank you.
You survived. Congratulations.
Yeah, brilliant. Kept me up. Actually, I'm usually asleep by now. So, yeah. No,
you got a busy. You got a busy day and an early start, Marcus. Have you tomorrow?
Yeah, get the 20 past 6 train. I'll be in just after 7. Then the contractor's coming to seed it. So we're seeding it with well, I won't give up my secrets, but we're seeding it with one of the best ever seeds that's going. So I'll post that on my daily sort of like update tomorrow. So that'll hopefully be done by tomorrow early afternoon. Yeah, then we go from there.
Marcus, do you want to add about potentially getting some volunteers in Friday morning?
Yeah, of course. So if there's anyone out there, if you can direct message me, if there's anyone out there to spare an hour on Friday morning from 9 o'clock, be putting their germination sheets on. And it's basically just people. I just need people standing on the sheets because they're like big sails as we peg them. It takes no more than an hour. So if anyone's available, be much appreciated. 9 o'clock at the county ground Friday morning.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, there you go. What better an opportunity have you got on a Friday morning? If you're not doing anything better, to go down and have your own little imprint on our beautiful carpet for the season ahead. I'm sure you're not going to be short of takers there, Marcus. Keep an eye on your DMs, mate. All being well.
Thank you very much.
No worries, Marcus. It's been an absolute treat having you with us, mate.
I've enjoyed it. Yeah, I've enjoyed it. Great.
As I said to you before, buddy, like, you know, we see dreams come true out on that pitch, mate, and it's all sort of ultimately you're the one that lays the foundation for it. So from every Swindon Town supporter, not just the ones listening in, Marcus, thank you ever so much for what you do, mate. And I look forward to catching up with you in person, hopefully sometime very soon.
Great, thank you very much, Mark.
Take care, buddy.
Great, ta-ra, mate. Bye.
Cheers, Marcus.
Cheers, Marcus.
Cheers, Marcus.
Cheers, Marcus.
Well, there you are, ladies and gentlemen. Marcus Cassidy, pitch preparer and groundsman supreme. Chris, Joe, Max, Alex, what'd you make of that? He seemed to enjoy himself.
Yeah, it was very enlightening.
Yeah, it's good.
You know, yeah, it was good. It was.
He's got a copy of Pitchcraft under his bed. He's got a clean sink, and he wears a Plymouth Argyle fur shirt in bed.
There's going to be some interesting photos for Alex to take over the next few months.
No, he got into it beautifully, didn't he? I think he's a bit nervous at the start, just to give a little bit of an analysis. But yeah, I think he's fine. Obviously, once he got going, he's absolutely fine. But I know he was bricking it slightly earlier. He rang me a couple of times. I said, "Look, you'll be fine. It's all a bit of fun."
He's an absolute top boy, absolute top guy, and also Marcus is really approachable in and around. I mean, it's lovely for me standing in the town end. I think most home games you get the opportunity just to sort of say hello, and he's always willing to come over and have a chat with you, let you know what's happening on the pitch and whatnot. A real unsung hero at the county ground, Alex, as someone that works alongside him. I'm sure you'd agree.
Yeah, definitely. He's not just saying this. He's exceptional at what he does. He's the master. I'm the young Jedi, really. I've got my own business that I run, but I help him out when I can, if I can. And I've learned a lot from him already. It's something I love doing. It's kind of a bit of a passion of mine on the side. And he's obviously top guy. And yeah, like I said, very, very, very good at what he does. Loyalty, amazing. There's no doubting he could have moved on several times, and he probably still could, to be honest. So I think we're lucky to have him as a fan.
He's the John Trollope of forks and spades, is our Marcus.
What a beautiful tribute, Joe. The John Trollope of the fork and spade. That's a wonderful one. He's got to be due a testimonial, surely, a double testimonial by now, surely.
I think it's 22 years this year. I think he was telling me earlier,
Yeah.
which is quite an achievement at Swindon Town. No one seems to stick around for 2, let alone 22.
Well, look,
I mean, what would Marcus Cassidy testimonial look like? Do we have like a planting session or a?
We'd have to ask him, wouldn't we? I mean,
I think he's still listening. I think he's still around. So, Marcus, if you're there, can you answer that?
We need to get Dan involved, get him his own print.
I think you're right. I think we need to start a campaign here, guys. So Tom Broadbent now is going to campaign for a Marcus Cassidy testimonial at the county ground. I'd love to know what that would be. Whether that would be 22 groundsmen facing off on the pitch, or whether that would be just a good old-fashioned Swindon Town Plymouth Argyle tear-up, where we can get some. I mean, you get Doyler back diving in the stands and all sorts. Couldn't you? We could have some proper fun with that.
Absolutely.
We'd have to get some proper pasties though. None of that Ginster's muck. Right. Look, gents. Moving us along from Marcus, and we're trying to still keep the tone sort of a little bit upbeat. It's been a controversial week on the socials this week, hasn't it, for Swindon Town? And I mean, I'll try and set the tone a little bit because. I mean, where do I start? Obviously, we've got the departure. We should probably start with a discussion on one confirmed departure, of course, which is that of Ben Chorley. Now, obviously, there has been a lot of speculation going on in relation to first team coach Ben Garner departing the club for South East London this week. It's still to be confirmed whether that's the case, and there are various reports out there sort of stating at what stage those conversations, if those conversations are even taking place, are at. The general consensus, however, seems to be there's no smoke without fire, and that at some point we're going to be seeing Ben Garner depart these shores. But then, much to people's surprise, we bade farewell to Ben Chorley this week. Now, the details of Ben's departure, or where he's going and whatnot, is still to be confirmed. So we don't really know why he's gone, where he's gone. But that then triggered an avalanche of what I would refer to as negativity on social media this week, which we're going to try and sort of sink our teeth into. Some of it seemed sort of fairly sort of reasoned and balanced. Some of it was right off the deep end. I mean, I don't know which of you guys kind of, want to start, but I think it's probably only fair to have a conversation about Mr. Chorley himself. I mean, from my perspective, it's an interesting one because obviously we judge Ben Chorley typically on the comings and goings on the performance side of the football club, and obviously brought a lot of very exciting players into the club this year. And Ben seemed to be the one that got all the credit for that. But I mean, who wants to be your starter for 10? I mean, first of all, were you shocked? I guess I'll pose this question to whoever wants to answer it. Were you shocked? What was your gut reaction? And indeed, what do you think the future looks like in terms of, post Ben Chorley? I don't know who wants to go at that first.
I feel
go on, Joe.
Go on, Max. Sorry, mate.
Just because the whole sort of thing around Garner's leaving is pretty much everyone, including myself included, said it's sad to lose Garner because he's done great for us in terms of the style of play we've been playing. But I was never worried because I thought, but we've got Ben Chorley still. Because you think about the recruitment last year, and you think about the players he recruited, like DJ in his time as chief scout, that you don't really doubt his ability to find us the right players and get us out of this league. And my first reaction when I heard it was, wow, that's going to be a big hit, just in terms of recruitment, because it's such a competitive part of the system at the top of League Two in terms of trying to get out because of all those places being available, and there's still a lot of teams with money up there. You think that Bradford will throw money at it again, and even Stockport coming up, they've got a lot of money behind them. So the real edge that we can get on this is having a smart head at the top who's getting in the players. So I think it's going to be I think it will be a big loss losing Chorley, bigger than it is losing Garner.
You've got to wonder where the sort of the transfers are at the minute. You'd have assumed we'd been working on some transfers for the last couple of months, maybe at least. Obviously, those targets, where are they now? Who's dealing with those? has everything just been dropped? Be back to square one? I mean, I don't know.
I think you raised the most pertinent question there, Joe, really, with Ben Chorley leaving, because I think, I was of the opinion that Ben Chorley will have been kind of lining up his targets sort of probably from about halfway through this season, already forward planning based on a number of scenarios, which division we're going to be in. He would have built relationships with great clubs. You would hope there'll be agreement in principle. So I think you probably raised the most sort of salient question, because obviously we'll all cast our mind back to last summer, and we'll be taking a look at the sort of, I don't want to call it a rush job, because I don't necessarily mean that in a disparaging way, but obviously we had to piece the squad together very, very quickly. And that kind of left a lot of us hanging, didn't it, going into the season, to the point where we were at pre-season friendlies, Weymouth to the like, going, bloody hell, like, we just do well to stay in this division. And I don't think anyone really wants to be back in that situation after such an encouraging sort of season. But
sorry to butt in. I just want to put a positive spin on things, really. And I think, I sort of got to know Chores, got to know, Ben Garner. Two great blokes. Can't really say a bad word about either of them. But like we're discussing there, 2 weeks before the start of last season, we didn't have a team. What's to say that Clem and Rob and those behind the scenes haven't got a better DOF, a better coach lined up? It's very easy to sit there and start moaning, typical football fans, doom and gloom. But let's just be patient. Let's wait. Let's see what happens. When the decision's made, people that can then make a decision and say, God, why have we brought him in? We don't think much of him. Or actually, wow, is that an improvement on Chorley? Yes, it is. I think it's just a case of just need to be a little bit patient, and let's just, time's a healer as such. And who knows, we might come out with something that, we never even in our wildest dreams could have expected,
Well, listen, I'm with you, Alex, like completely with you. And before, you said about putting a positive spin on things. Like, I really, really want this part of our show to ensure that anyone that's listening is thinking along similar lines. And I'll tell you why. You said it yourself. We had 2 weeks to put together a squad last year, and we did it, and it was fantastic. But not only that, look at the progress that's been made by our club on and off the pitch in the space of the kind of like 8-9 months that followed. Whether yes, there were times where we were literally pulling, well, certainly in my respect, what's left of my hair out. There were some very, very, very frustrating results, typically at home. But then right at the end of the season, we really hit our stride. We played some scintillating football. Yeah, it came to a little bit of a disappointment then. But if you are either a director of football at another club that's doing a great job, maybe with a smaller budget, or if you are someone in football further up the ladder that is looking to sort of, cut their teeth, and you don't want to be a coach, but you've got an enviable black book, you've got to be looking at Swindon Town as a huge opportunity. Here we've got an owner that has got a multi-million-pound international business services company that is running our club. He has honoured every single promise that he had made when he joined the club. We've got a cracking CEO that has taken a move away from a heavyweight, and I might stress a heavyweight position in Nationwide Building Society as your CEO. It's a perfect scenario, isn't it, for somebody that wants to come in and cut their teeth, as many have, I might add, historically at Swindon Town before. So I really don't see it as all doom or gloom. I think the only frustration, Alex, on your point, is that you get the sense that nobody really saw this coming, and so that is obviously that is a major fly in the ointment, because
we don't know the circumstances behind. As far as I'm aware, it was an amicable parting of ways. It resigned, that come out, but we don't know. We don't even know. Are we going to go back down the DOF route? We don't. We haven't heard anything. It's all speculation, but there may be a very amicable reason. Is he, does he want to live closer to home? Is he really missing home? I think he's got small children, potentially. Quote me on that if I'm wrong, but he might just not fancy being up in Swindon all the time. And I did have a conversation with him, and he was living in the Blunsdon House Hotel and hardly getting home for weeks on end. If you've got a young family, is that sustainable? That's another question you have to ask as well.
Well, I mean, listen, it's a fair point, and I mean, and this is the other point in relation to to Ben Garner. I've made it very clear this week, very very disappointed that Ben Garner is if he is having conversations with other clubs, given he's got a 3-year contract, given the background and the progress that the club's made over the course of this season, very 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 disappointed. However, on a human level, you saw at the end of the season, Ben was on the pitch with his 2 young girls. That's a very very young family. There may be issues away from the pitch. If his support network is back in London, and if his family are having trouble settling in the area, then you've got to be supportive. We're not talking about at our level of football. You're not talking about multi millionaires that can just sort of uproot and move around. These guys have mortgages to pay. They have families to keep happy, and these are all things that we have to consider. So, but one of the things that I wanted to sort of spend a little bit of time talking about, and Chris, I'll get your thoughts on this as someone that is, by trade, a journalist, and as is charged with sort of putting correct messaging and whatnot out there. It's been a very, very, what's the best word to use? It's been a stormy week on the socials for Swindon Town, Chris, hasn't it? What have you made of it?
Well, it certainly has, but I'm very similar to what Alex was talking about. It's still early now. I mean, to get someone in, but you've got to make the right decision. So you don't want a rush job and make one that's wrong. We've got to see who's out there, who is interested in the project, and take from there. I think the worst thing we could do is rush into a decision.
Yeah, but the other thing is, surely Garner's got to be announced at Charlton before we can do anything officially. You know what I mean? So it's a case of waiting for that to be confirmed first. I mean, from what I've heard, I think the Charlton chairman was on holiday. I think Garner's been on holiday. So I think it's going to be a case of when they both get back together, then it's potentially be announced if it is going to happen. But obviously we can't do anything officially until that's sort of done and dusted, can we?
Yeah, and this is the thing that I think most people are completely missing. Most football clubs and most people that are part of the administration of a football club, at the end of the season, if you were in our position, for example, you couldn't have seen these changes coming necessarily. Like, I just don't, the impression that you're getting is that these things have kind of taken a few people by surprise. All right. Now, I don't know that for sure. I don't know that for certain. And I've not been tipped the nod either way. I can give you my word on that. However, what tends to happen with football is like as soon as the last ball's kicked, the lads go in the changing room, almost like bag up all their stuff, and they're off on their holidays. And there are lots of people behind the scenes at football clubs that at that point take the opportunity of a week or two away. And Swindon Town Football Club will not be alone in that respect. So there may well be issues in relation to that. I mean, I've heard that potentially Rob Angus is out the country at the moment, taking a holiday again. I can't confirm, I can't deny. But if you've got, for example, a CEO or you've got a club secretary, or these are all really, really important players in terms of the many manifestations of somebody joining or departing your football club. So I don't know whether the sections of our fan base that have been on social media this week are being realistic or not, but it just seems like people are expecting literally clicking fingers miracles, and I can't help but think that's massively unrealistic. I mean, Max, what some of the fallout this week, Max? I'll take your view on this. I mean, we've had all sorts, haven't we? We've had, obviously we had the official supporters club on Monday. They provide an excellent opportunity for at least try and allay some of the fears, try and nip some of the the rumour in the bud. And then I feel sorry for Vic today, that Vic's having to tweet and tell people just to calm down, like somebody that is trying to do the right thing by the supporters. It then whips up this enormous great storm about the role of the trust. I mean, it's unbelievably hair trigger. It seems like people are going right off the deep end. What's been your take on it, Max?
Yeah, I definitely think thinking back to Monday and the sports club stream is that I do think a lot of it was about force, and I feel Vic had to deal with it. And I feel for guys like James Spencer and the trust, because we spoke to Alex Pollock on here last week, and I do trust the trust to keep the club's best interests at heart. I think it's just it must be a turbulent time with it's like we're saying with who's dealing with stuff at the moment. If the two Bens are out the door, then it's understandable that the club could potentially need a hand with stuff. I think I've spoken to you about this. I'm of the view that I do believe the trust should keep a slight distance from club ownership, because I think the closer you are, I think the harder it could potentially be for you to hold the club to account as best you can. But at the same time, I trust what Clem's doing, and I trust the two guys that I trust two guys that are co-running the trust currently.
Well, I mean, listen, Max. This is my point of view. For what it's worth, is that I think there are some folk out there that kind of want their cake and eat it. You know, when Clem took the club over, you got to remember that we haven't had a fan behind the scenes at the club in pretty much in all the years that I can remember, and that goes back some 30 odd years. And by that, I hasten to add, I'll caveat that. I've no doubt there have been directors of the club and so forth that have been Swindon Town fans, or family have been Swindon Town fans, and so on and so forth. But Clem was very, very clear and very, very open that as part of his kind of, you know, his administration at the football club, that he wanted the fans to feel very much part of the running of the club. You know, we have an advisory board set up that's got supporters on there. You know, I mean, we've got Rob as a CEO, slightly different kettle of fish that, but Clem's basically said, look, I want to get the fans involved in the running of this club. I want to be transparent with the running of this club. And the thing that sort of surprises me a little bit is that if, as we suspect, the announcements with the two Bens potentially departing the club, like the pair of them potentially or allegedly departing the club, and if that has coincided with people behind the scenes also going off on their holidays, that may be part of supporting a swirl of moves in and out of the club, well, you're going to be short on manpower behind the scenes. So who are you going to turn to? Well, okay, so look, our CEO is the former head of the Supporters Trust, okay? And he is going to know people in the Supporters Trust that he can, excuse the pun, trust to come in and assist on certain things within the club. Does that mean the Supporters Club has sold its soul? Does it? Hell. What that means is that you've got a bunch of people that are part of a trusted circle that can be trusted in the club's hour of need to step into the club, or to help sort of fill some vacuum, or to help get some messaging out there, just to get everyone just to calm down. And I didn't see it as any more, any less than that. Now, as I understand it, there's been some further comment from the trust and certain people. I think it was linked to James saying, yeah, look, we have been helping the club out with emails to the fan base or this, that, and the other. Well, look, let's just calm down a little bit and let's just take a look at that, because you're talking about an administration that's been at the club for under a year. You know, they are recruiting at the moment significantly behind the scenes. But even if all those bums are on seats, it's still going to take a while for these people to get up to speed. And there are a lot of people that have left the club over the last couple of years that maybe had the expertise, that maybe the expertise in and out isn't quite where we would like it or where Clem would like it to be. Meanwhile, we've got the Supporters Trust, who are part of the advisory board, that are there, and there are certain people with expertise in IT, in communications, that can actually step in and fill a vacuum. What I don't understand, like, what the problem is with that. That if we're still facing the same problems 3-4 years down the line, or 2 years down the line, then yeah, I would agree. I don't necessarily think it's healthy that the trust should be seen or could be perceived by some as being in the pockets of the club. I get that. But at the moment, there's a little bit of crisis management going on here. And I mean crisis in inverted commas. So I just don't understand. I mean, look, in the interest of me just not talking here, I mean, has anyone else got some thoughts on what I've just said?
Well, I was just going to say to that, like, I'm on board with what you're saying. And I think we've mentioned this about, I'm sure Clem's would warn that we are a very twitchy fan base, which I think is understandable given the power era and what we had to kind of go through as a fan base. I think what everyone, at the end of the day, everyone just wants to, I was saying it, I just want to go watch us play football. And I don't want to have to worry about things behind the scenes. But I think sometimes fans just can't help themselves, but think they jump to the worst case scenario, because take the season under Sheridan, pretty much everything that was coming out was a worst case scenario situation, which easily could have been avoided with something maybe like the trust having more involvement.
Yeah, listen, Max, I'm with you. And as I've tweeted earlier this week, you know, I can't I can't look anybody in the face or come on this show and say that I'm not battle weary. You know, like over 30 years of supporting our football club, I'm starting to get to the stage where I feel like I've seen it all. You know, I've been to Wembley, cried tears of joy, and less than a week later, been sat with tears of despair. And not just because of a relegation, but a double relegation. I've seen us get promoted to the Premier League and have the most gifted footballer of his generation pretty much kind of like, you know, orchestrate the whole thing. And then literally a week or so later leaves the club. And then I've seen us concede 100 goals in the Premier League. And being a South London schoolboy at the time, I took an awful lot of stick for that. You know, we've seen the likes of Paolo come into the club, and you know, just the firecracker that was, and some of the stuff connected to Paolo Di Canio, both in terms of him being at the club, but then his departure of the club, kind of like just boggled your mind. I've stood on a freezing cold terrace at Brentford, being told that 24 hours later our club is going to be out of business. You know, only recently. I mean, look, where do you know? I get it. I really, really do get it, and I don't know whether it helps that I'm a Londoner and I live on the London-Kent border, and so maybe I'm that little bit geographically removed that helps me be a little bit pragmatic. I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm not surrounded by Swindon Town fans like all day, every day, apart from when I come on this show. But I just look at it, Max, like this. Like we've got a cash-rich millionaire owner who has stood in the stands with us this season. He has told us that he's got some really exciting plans. We have got the stadium, like, you know, the purchase of the stadium is lined up. That in itself is absolutely enormous. We've got 14,000 people coming into the county ground, you know, for a playoff game against Port Vale, and only a week or so prior against Barrow, we had a crowd that was kind of pushing that against Barrow. Like, I mean, I can literally just keep going and going and going about the positives. And I can't help but think that, you know, there has been the most gross overreaction. And one of the things that I think we've all really got to kind of take a look at, Swindon Town fans here, is we've got to kind of reset ourselves a bit. You know, I'll be interested in taking anyone's view on why there might be doubts around, you know, the running of our football club. But I've got to tell you, like, we need to be very, very, very careful here, because, you know, I was involved in the club as a primary sponsor of the football club during the Paolo Di Canio era, and there were things that weren't necessarily fans related that ended up with our primary kind of backer leaving the football club, and the uncertainty that then caused thereafter, you know, was a real kick. And I would hate that this hair trigger nature that Swindon Town fans have got, by no fault of their own, by the way, but I would hate that puts our current owner any seeds of doubt in his mind about the viability of being involved in Swindon Town Football Club. Because what I'm trying to say, Max, I guess, is we've got a lot to be grateful for, haven't we?
Oh, 100%. And you mentioned about your geographical location. I look at mine being in Manchester, and I look at what the clubs near me have gone through. I look at Bury out of business. I look at Oldham being run by a charlatan. Rochdale almost had the potential hostile takeover. I look at clubs around here. I think that we are still in a good place, and we've got people in positions to make good decisions and take us forward. And especially, we talk about a manager wanting to come here with an opportunity. I think the other added thing, not just to the club size and the opportunity, but also that we've said we know we will have a bigger budget going into next season. And look at what we did last year without a budget.
Yeah, and this is the thing, isn't it? It's like, it's very, very easy to look at this situation and just default to the negatives. But hopefully, as we're touching on tonight, there are so many positives, you know, and let's take a look at it. Okay, like I said, our coach hasn't gone yet, right? So I want to be very, very careful, and our coach may not go, but I want to be very, very careful about this. And Rich Pullen and the guys on the Low Strangers touched on this with their pod yesterday. You know, there's an element of our fan base that never really took to our coach. And if they did, it was only very, very late in the season. And yet now, I don't know whether it's the same people, but, you know, people are coming out sort of talking about his departure as, you know, as you know, it was like you know, there's this massive retrograde step. It wasn't that long ago. I mean, when Ben Chorley was with us in his first spell, there were a lot of fans that were kind of doubting what Ben Chorley was up to, and they were linking him into the previous administration and the failings of that administration. And then when Ben Chorley came back to the club, there were people asking questions about what's he actually going to do. And only a few months later, they were then suddenly flagging Ben Chorley as being the messiah because we're bringing in super players. I think it's just tapping into I know all football fans are the same. Like, we are all a little bit fickle. We are all a little bit hair trigger. But just this week, it just seemed to go just bananas. I mean, there was some very light touch, reassuring comments that, for example, the trust representatives put out there, that people were just going. I mean, I couldn't believe it. It was like they were really overreading some of what he was saying and implying that somehow the trust suddenly knew who all the managerial candidates were and that everyone needs to just calm themselves down a bit. I mean, Joe, what's your take?
I think, to be honest, it's just years and years of mistreatment from previous owners or previous custodians of the club. I think there's just a pessimism that's a default mindset for a Swindon Town fan. You can't particularly blame that either, really, from the experiences we've had over the last 20 to 30 years.
So what do we need to do to fix it, Joe? Because it's not.
I think Clem's on his way to doing exactly that. I think Clem's done. He's promised things. He's delivered. I suppose this is his first real test of loyalty, or not even loyalty. Maybe loyalty from the fan side. But he's delivered what he said he would deliver last season. He said that we've got a bigger budget this season. We know that he's recruiting within the club. You've got to give him the benefit of the doubt. He delivered last season, and you've got to, give him a chance to deliver this season, I think.
Yeah, and I think, if there are, some of the people that are raising concerns about, quote, and I'm probably using far too flowery a language here, but the way that the club is being run. I would point out that, the CEO of our football club held a heavyweight role at one of the largest, if not the largest, building society in the UK, and is now CEO of our football club. Now, and also prior to that was also the head of our trust. Now, the minute you've got...
He's a ticket holder for 20 years or however long as well.
Exactly that. Now, if there was anything going on behind the scenes of our football club that, you're going to be raising an eyebrow at, I would like to think that, someone like Rob Angus wouldn't be morally happy being in his position. I've met Rob a number of times. He's a solid guy, a really smart operator. And I don't believe that, if there was anything that you did need to kind of raise an eyebrow at or, hang on a minute, I don't think he's the kind of guy that is just going to kind of like take that roll over and have his tummy tickled. Rob's still at the club. Rob's absolutely dedicated to Swindon Town, and Rob is, Rob's had a proper solid first full season in his role. Again, you talk about CEO. We've got a CEO that's coming out. He's in the stands with us. He's shaking hands. He was in his replica at Walsall, for goodness' sake, and he's incredibly positive about what the future looks like. Is there anything you think, Joe, that could be done if you're a Swindon fan? And you're asking people to take that leap of faith. It's a tough one, isn't it? How do you go about taking a fan base and going from glass half empty to glass half full in situations like this? Like in people's minds, like what would you be asking them to do? How would you be asking them to behave? Like what would you be asking them to consider before they maybe start hitting the keyboard or talking to their mates at work? What would you say?
Oh, I think you've hit the nail on the head there. Hitting the keyboard. I think in the modern day, I feel like social media is such a massive platform. It can dictate the mood of an entire fan base. I saw Charlton put a statement out the other day of like a little pre-season update thing from the chairman, where he was talking about, they're looking forward to their pre-season camp in Spain or whatever, and they're looking through their new manager search is going well, and obviously they'll update the fans as soon as they have news. I feel like something like that maybe could settle a few nerves, just a bit of communication directly from the club. And obviously we got the statement through the trust, which was fantastic. But I suppose if it comes from the horse's mouth, it leaves less room for interpretation.
Yeah, I think
you can set a precedent sometimes though with over communicating, don't you think? It's kind of like there isn't really much to say, like we were sort of touching on there with Charlton haven't announced Garner yet. Swindon can't come out and go, oh, we'd like to announce that Charlton's new manager is Ben Garner. It won't be Swindon that do that. It'll be Charlton. So, like I say, they're waiting for something to happen there in order for them to then communicate. It's all about getting the right PR, and I think you can over-communicate stuff. Like with that Charlton thing, oh yeah, we know they're looking forward to Spain and they're looking for a new manager. Is there a real need to kind of communicate that? It's kind of almost like it's a real fine balance with PR. And I think what can they come out and say really that's going to settle the fan base? The fan base are going to have the rumour mill going, and this manager's coming in, or the bookies don't help with ridiculous people in the betting.
Maybe just do a little kit launch, a home kit launch. There you go.
Yeah, we'll go out and do that. I think. Listen, on the PR side, I think you're right, Alex. You sort of touch on it. I mean, I think you've got to think about the ripples. Like they go so much wider than than what you've even mentioned. I mean, at the moment, obviously, there's a big drive for trying to encourage people to either renew or buy the season tickets for the new season. That's a huge revenue stream for the football club. I would be gutted to think that people would and ah about getting a new season ticket off the back of Ben Chorley and Ben Garner being at the football club next season. I would like to think that football fans supporting the club in the heart of their community would have a slightly bigger picture view on why they should be buying a season ticket next year, because you don't support a club like Swindon Town and support them purely for the winning. Right now, that's just a reality of the fact that we've been in the bottom division now for longer than I care to see us there. I think you've got to think about the messaging that the club does put out, and the fact that it can have a knock-on effect to things like your season ticket purchases. So are you better just to sit tight, get your ducks in a row, and hopefully, I mean, if you're going to follow up news of a managerial departure, wouldn't it be amazing to be able to follow that straight up with a blow your socks off appointment in a managerial seat? Now, again, that's all dependent on negotiations with an incoming candidate. Those kind of conversations don't take place in sort of like over 3-4 hours. It's job done. These people have got to be spoken to. We've got to work out whether we're a natural fit. If we're going to bring someone in that's maybe based in the north, they're like, or based right down in the southwest, or they're going to have a hell of a commute from London. Got to work out, like, are they going to be able to settle into the area, be part of a long-term project? Are they the right type of character? I mean, that's been a key part of our recruitment this year with the players we've brought in. So there's an awful lot of work to be covered. And like I said, if that's being done off the back of, the shock departure of a manager and a director of football, then, I guess the thing is, our manager's from the other side of the world. Like, he can't give us much more than what he's given us. I mean, the guy's extended his stay for 10 days. His wife's gone back to Australia early. And he's staying in the country himself as owner of the club to oversee this entire process. So I don't know what more we need to be asking. I mean, listen, we know it's not perfect at the football club at the moment. I've heard, people have been moaning again about the ticketing. Like, we know it's not perfect. Like, the club know that improvements need to be made. They're recruiting people to come in and help contribute to that. Exactly the same on the communication side. Andrew Still-Davis has made it very clear that he's departing the football club. That means that someone new's going to have to come into our football club, potentially working with brand new systems, getting up the speed with putting messaging out, talking to the local rag, like making sure they know who's who at the advert, talking to all the various kind of fan outlets, making sure, right, okay, we're in a position where we can put effective messaging out there. I mean, I wasn't one of these people that was massively offended by the club seizing on the opportunity to speak to both the supporters club and the trust just to allay some fears last night. I can't understand the level of vitriol that stirred up last night. I really can't. In the grand, I mean, Chris, I'll put this to you. In the grand scheme of things, do we feel that? I mean, what's your take on it? Do you think the kind of fallout is representative of the far wider fan base, or do you sort of sense it's maybe just a relatively hardcore sort of group of dissenters that are a little bit battle weary and fear the worst? Or do you think the view that things have got to be a lot better is maybe more representative across the fan base? What's your gut feel?
I think it's just very much a general thing, and we've always had our fan base like that as well. They're always going to panic mode at the slightest little thing, and then with it being social media, it just grows and then gets out of control like it has.
Yeah, I just think some of the language that I've heard, has been very, very, very flowery to be polite. But I mean, some of the language. I mean, it was interesting because I listened to Nick Watkins with great interest when he came on the show a couple of weeks ago, and he was talking about the power of language and power of messaging. And he talked about Danny Wilson's kind of, pre-match speech as the team, just as the team went out, to face Millwall at Wembley. And he said to Danny, whatever you do, don't say go out and play with fear. So what's Danny Wilson do? He says, lads, go out, don't play with any fear. And the lads then went off and played with fear. Yeah. Some of the problem with social media is that you've got an awful lot of people that are fans that become an editor in their own right of their own content. And effectively have got free reign to use whatever language that they like. And some of the language has been unbelievably disparaging these last 48 hours.
It's such a knee-jerk reaction as well. Rather than have to take the time to think, social media, you can put it straight out there and someone else is replying and suddenly you've got a long thread that's just been derailed.
Yeah, such a trigger-happy fan base.
Yeah, and a fan base as well. It's about false rumours, which don't help at all either. Even some of these like these fake accounts coming out with the fact that the grey and red figure have to be addressed, and that's come from a sort of making a fake account.
Yeah, I mean, okay, let's be really, really clear about it, because this is the other thing, and it seems to be. I mean, I suspect the whole Graham Rix thing was thrown in there by somebody that's just having a bit of fun. Whether that's a fan of an opposing club having a bit of fun at our expense, or whether that's a Swindon fan that's just thrown Graham Rix in there because they know that name immediately throws up an awful lot of debate. And he's been linked with the club in the past with Glenn Hoddle. Anyone that's read Glenn Hoddle's book at the moment will understand how Graham Rix was linked to the club, and Nick talked about that a couple of weeks ago as well. But it's a very valid point. I mean, there's all kinds of things that seem to be stimulating this debate. People seem to look at the latest bookies odds and say, right, okay, well, look at him at the moment. He's 2-1, and he's absolutely bolted on for the job. Well, really, we don't know that. You don't know that. So I think everybody just needs to sort of just calm themselves down a little bit at the moment. And I listen, like I said, I just reiterate, I am as battle weary as the next man. I really am. I've lost count the number of times I've walked away from various situations that involving our football club, just scratching my head and going, how have we ended up in this situation? But I just go back to what we said before. Someone raised the question of momentum, and losing all our momentum going into this summer, right? Okay, well, again, momentum's that's a big word to use at the moment. The fact is, you talk about momentum, we are looking at a football club that is potentially a stone's throw away from owning our own ground. We're looking at a football club that's got an owner that has come out, put his money where his mouth is. He has put together the structure of the board that he's promised. He has engaged with fans. He can't do much more than walk into the town end and stand there with us in games. And I've stood right next to him, and he's talking to fans. He's more than happy answering questions wherever he can. I can tell you for a fact, Clem attended the official supporters club night. He was talking to anyone that was willing to stay behind and talk to him. And he had a good old gaggle of people around him at the end of the night. And they were all asking him questions, and he was answering as openly, as honestly as he could. This guy is available to us. He talks to us. And I just think we need to be very, very, very careful we don't end up throwing the baby out with the bathwater because we've got scars. We have got scars as a fan base. I get that. But let's not lose perspective. We've got a new bloody owner. Get behind him. We kind of owe it to ourselves, right? What have we got to lose? How many years have we as a fan base been glass half empty? How many years? And it's not fun. So, what the hell? Just back our horse. Do you know what I mean? We've asked for him. We've got him. He's in. He's bought the football club. He went through all the rigmarole in the summer of securing it, court cases. Some of this stuff's still ongoing, and he's fighting. But he's there. And the fact is, the club is recruiting. I can tell you that firsthand. I know the club is recruiting. That is going to get better. As that gets better, comms are going to improve. Our output is going to improve. I just think everyone needs to be a little bit empathetic. But hey, listen, at the end of the day, who am I? I'm genuinely just a fan with a vested interest in our football club. I stand in the town end just like you guys. I watch the same football you guys watch. I have to share the same frustrations, but I just don't want us to, I don't want us to, be sort of filling a very, very seemingly at the moment, very worthy owners' head with doubts as to just whether or not he can get this football club, spiritually behind him, for want of a better word. Okay. Vic, it would be lovely to get your take on this. If you are able to join us and offer your comments tonight. Have I just got a little bit too evangelical there? Have you got an alternative view?
No, not at all. I've just come back from Taunton, where Somerset lost tonight, unfortunately, against Sussex. But so I missed the first part of the programme with Marcus, which I'm very disappointed about. So I'll catch up with it later on. But, I just really wanted to say, all the furore following the panel on Monday, I just didn't get it, because the whole point was I went out to I asked James Spencer if he could possibly get some clarification through the trust about what the situation was, because I, like you, saw at 4:00 in the afternoon Ben Chorley was leaving. We do not, or may not know, whether Ben Garner's leaving. So there was all sorts of uncertainty. So the whole point was to try to get some clarification. Rob Angus is on holiday, as you rightly said earlier. People at a football club, comes to the end of the season, they're all exhausted, quite frankly. Rob, more than most, I would imagine. And he's on holiday. Clem was due to go back, I think, Monday, but he's staying for another 10 days to try to sort this out. So all we wanted to do was get a little bit of clarity and maybe smooth over, one or two ruffled feathers. So that was the whole point. And lo and behold, that's what James Spencer did, bless him. Got a little bit of a statement. It was a holding statement, no more. The club basically will say something when there's something to say. But James gets an awful lot of stick for it. And I just couldn't quite believe it. I could have written something really nasty on Twitter this afternoon, but I just thought that's the way it is. I asked him to do it. He very kindly did. The club aren't saying anything until there's something to say, which is perfectly reasonable. There's a bank holiday weekend with 2 bank holidays tomorrow and Friday. Do people expect something to happen over the bank holiday weekend? Unlikely. The CEO's not here. He's on holiday. They are speaking to people, I'm sure, every moment that they can. For goodness sake, it's the end of the season. And I was quite angry, but I've calmed down a little bit now.
Yeah, well, I think you kept your composure on Twitter brilliantly, Vic. Look, like me, you've been a fan of this football club a very, very long time, certainly a lot longer than I have, and you've certainly seen everything I've seen and some. I made the point earlier, Vic. I believe our supporter base have never had a better opportunity to sort of press the reboot button in their own heads about how they view our football club and how they feel about our football club and their view of our vision of our football club moving forward. Is there anything that you would say along these lines that people need to kind of, people need to consider, or how they go about rebooting their mindset with Swindon Town Football Club? Because we don't want to lose the passion, but it does seem that we sort of default to the negative sort of, really, really quickly, understandably so. But we've never had an opportunity like this, have we, really? Let's be honest.
Well, I'm going to say this because I am a Swindonian and I'm as miserable as the next person. I got to say this, Swindonians generally are of that kind of, and I'm going to say that because I'm a native. But the whole point is, Rob and Clem had said specifically that they would come onto the panel on anything else when there is something to say. And I think that's perfectly reasonable. I don't quite understand what people want. What are they going to do? Is Rob going to come on off his holiday and say, well, actually, there's nothing to say? Well, thanks very much for joining us, Rob. Thank you. And is Clem going to say, we are looking possibly for a new manager? We're possibly not. Until, I think it was Alex who said quite rightly, until a statement is made about Ben Garner at Charlton or not at Charlton, we don't know where we are. So
yeah,
Ben Garner is on holiday. Nothing is settled. That's it. End of story.
End of story. I guess the other thing is as well. Over the last sort of 24 hours, there's been an awful lot of vitriol aimed towards the trust.
Yeah.
And their role. They've openly come out and said, look, we've been assisting the club, in various what sound like relatively menial tasks, but they're there offering the club support. Correct me if I'm wrong, Vic, but is that not what we kind of. I get the independence and I get holding the club to account, but as we continue to rebuild our football club, is that not a good thing for us to have? Trusted individuals, members of our trust, actually leaning in and helping the club at a time where the club needs support.
Well, people want a fan on the board, don't they? I mean, the fact of the matter is, I am quite trusting of the trust people, because if that's not too many uses of the word trust, they will hold the club to account. I'm pretty sure of it. And knowing the people involved, you spoke to Alex last week. We have James on the panel regularly. Steve and Stuart. I know people on the trust, and they aren't going to be messed about with. I mean, we've been through. If you think back 12 months and what they put themselves on the line to tell us during all those court cases, I mean, they're not just going to let this football club go down the Swanee. It's that simple. So, it all came out of one statement that James Spencer managed to get for us on a Monday night to try to calm some nerves. And some people just, I don't know where they go with it. I just don't understand it. Simple as that.
Well, as I said, Vic, I mean, my point, I don't mean it to sort of keep repeating myself. And I mean, Joe, Max, Alex, Chris, I'll take your view on whether or not I'm wide of the market. But I guess the thing is, Vic, as far as I'm concerned, I'm more than happy for the trust and the supporters club to be leaning in and supporting the club at a point where the club's still at a relatively kind of, early level of its rebuild, like internally and in terms of its relationship with the fans. There's a lot of uncertainty. There's still like seats that need bums on them inside the club. And at a time where you've got the trust and the supporters club and certain people in those organisations that have got expertise that can lean in and help at this time, I don't really have a problem with it. As I said, I maybe would have a problem with it if we're a couple of years down the line and, you can't quite clearly sort of see the space between the trust and the football club, because I think that'd be unhealthy. But at the moment, we're still rebuilding our football club, Vic, aren't we?
Absolutely. And I've got to say, as a broadcast journalist with 30-odd years' experience, if I get a chance to robustly question people, that's exactly what I'll do. And whether they be members of the trust, whether they be Clem Morfuni, Rob Angus, I'm a member of the supporters club. I'm a member of the trust. I'm not paid to do any of this. I just do it because I enjoy doing it. And I think sometimes, we lose that word enjoyment of a football club. And we're not the only one who's losing a manager. Other clubs have lost a manager. It's not that uncommon, is it? So I just think sometimes people need to take a step back. I can imagine that Clem Morfuni's a little bit confused by this situation. All of a sudden, there we are. We're thinking we've got to retain this. We're all looking ahead to next season. We're going to settle summer. They'll come back for pre-season training, pre-season friendlies, blah, blah, blah. Away we go. All of a sudden, the Cheltenham business blows up. And, from certain reports, all that was blowing up during the playoffs. Yeah. So we don't know any of this, do we? And I'm sure that when all this is settled, they will come out and talk about it.
I think the key thing for me, I mean, you mentioned the point about Clem being confused. I think, and confused in inverted commas, but I think we just need to be, like I said, I think we need to be very, very, very careful and not end up, sort of, I don't want to use the word bite in the hand that feeds us, because let's just be clear, this Tom Broadbent Lounge is nothing to do with our football club. In terms of we're not paid to put this stuff out there. No. I do this because we're a bunch of fans and we just like to talk about our football club. But let's say, like, just for once in our bloody lifetime, can we just accept the fact that we've actually got a bloke behind the scenes of the club? As far as we know, he's a golden opportunity for us. He's going to grow this club. He's going to bring expertise into this football club. Everything he's promised to do, this guy has delivered so far. I've got no reason, other than 30 years of wounds, I've got no reason to make his life even more difficult than it needs to be. If ever there was a time where Swindon Town as a fan base, needs to just unite behind this guy and just support him, give him a bit of breathing space. Like, don't add to their burdens. Like, now's that time. I mean, again, listen, I'm not a happy clapper, Vic. Like, I never have been. I openly admit I try and be glass half full most things in life. I have to be, I think, supporting our football club. Like, you always have to try and find silver linings. But this is the first time, in a very, very, probably since Andrew Fitton, this is the first time in a very, very long time we've got somebody that's come into our football club that has captured our imagination, even in a way that Andrew Fitton didn't. And Andrew Fitton was having bed sheets hung up with his name on him, wasn't he, in the ground? So I guess what I'm trying to appeal for, Vic, is, like you said, a little bit of calm, a little bit of reason, like can everyone just, like, you know, just temper the language a little bit. Yeah, we want to be accountable, but at the same time, I sometimes wonder, you know, whether we're guilty of being a little bit militant, both in terms of our language, but also our overreactions.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know really. What do you want? Do you want somebody to comment on it, or you don't want somebody to comment on it? I mean, that's what the problem, it seemed to me, was. People were asking for some clarification. You get a little bit of clarification, and people don't want a little bit of clarification. I just didn't understand the whole thing really. And you know, if somebody can explain to me in simple language, I'm a simple bloke. I don't understand too much complicated business. But if you can explain to me why giving a little bit of clarification about a situation from people who are involved with the club, they know people who are involved in the club, what's wrong with that? I just didn't get it.
Yeah.
I'll butt in, Hannes, just quickly. I've just got a view on that from a personal perspective. I think the only thing that confused me from James was that I'm going to rule out, well, they've ruled out Sol Campbell and Graham Ricks. Now, I know Graham Ricks has got that bit of history that we probably, you know, question about him. I think that's probably, I mean, I haven't got an issue with it, but I think that's, from what I'm reading, I'm just flicking through Twitter now, actually, and having a look. I'm reading that's probably where they had the issue is, you know, do they go through the managerial shortlist with you? So I kind of get it, I kind of don't, but it's kind of, you know, I think they were probably, if they have said that that's not the case, they're probably doing it from a, you know, well, we don't want Graham Ricks linked with our club. That's probably the only reason that came into it, rather than going, oh, actually, I asked him about X, Y, and Z, and they said no, yes, no. It wasn't like that. It was probably just to settle the nerves about said person.
Yeah. I think you bang on, Alex, to be fair. And I think, I mean, listen, at the end of the day, if two names have been put to the club and the club have just turned around and said, well, those two names aren't on our list, then I don't really see what the issue is. I mean, I haven't watched James's comments back last. I watched them live as he was saying them, and there was nothing there that I really took exception with. There did seem to be an implication that maybe, you know, there was an overstepping of the remit, and, you know, he shouldn't be aware of who the club are talking to. And I mean, there was even conversations about data protection and things along these lines. Now, I mean, again, like, I think we just all need to calm down a little bit. I mean, if there are people involved with, you know, with the trust or the supporters club that have been helping out, and they have been, you know, as part of supporting them in that role, they have seen a list of managers, and so what? I don't see what the issue is. You know, we talk about, like, breaching FA rules and all the rest of it. Well, really, have we really breached FA rules? I don't, you know, I just think it's that this conversation just takes us into places we just don't need to be. Like, I really don't see the reason for it. But hey, listen, at the end of the day, and I'm sure the trust would say this, and I'm sure the supporters club would say this, like, you don't want to lose any of your members, but if you don't like the way those organisations are being run and you don't want to give them your money, then don't give them your money. But, you know, there are an awful lot of people out there that do like the way that they're run. And yeah, obviously we can all be better, but, you know, okay, if you think you can do a better job, put yourself forward for election. You know, but I really don't know what the answer is, you know, in terms of how making individuals feel better about those organisations. But just coming out at a time where there's clearly a little bit of crisis management going on the performance side of our club, and I say that in inverted commas because it may not be a crisis, it may well be in hand, but coming out and just creating this enormous sort of, like, you know, sort of negative sort of reaction and fearing the worst just isn't helping anybody, is it?
No, can I just say one more thing? I mean, I think, you know, as I said, I've been a broadcast journalist for 30 odd years, so, you know, I'm as cynical as the next person. But the people that I've worked with the supporters club and the trust, they do it for one thing and one thing only. They love the football club. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. I can't, you know, they're not in it for any sinister reason, as far as I can tell. And if they were, I would certainly be the first to call them out about it. So they love the football club. What else do you want me to say?
And I'd second that, Vic. I genuinely would. You know, I'm a paying member of the trust. I'm a paying member of the supporters club. You know, I do that because, and I've really lumped in this year. I don't mind telling you, I invest in the trust at the top tier because I'm really, really impressed with the way that the trust kept us all looped in the summer. And I wanted to, try and sort of repay a little bit of faith. It's almost like my family's way of saying thank you for what they're doing, and hopefully they'll do bigger and better things with my investment. Am I so entrenched and involved? Am I attending all meetings? Do I have an agenda to get involved in those organisations? No, I don't. But what I would say is that I've met a number of individuals that are involved. I've met Steve Mine. I think Steve's a great guy. We've had Alex on the show. Great guy. I've never met James, but there's never anything that I've seen him say on the box that I've taken massive exception to. And I'll go all the way down to, people like Chris Vick that comes on, with the supporters club and helps you set things up on a Monday. This is someone that's been around the club, forever as far as my supporting life has come from. And all you ever get is a smile and cheeriness and an attempt at sort of like lifting the mood. So there's no one involved in those organisations where I'm kind of turning a nose up. I can't speak for anyone else's personal agendas. There may well be personal agendas, but if there are, then I'd ask those people to take a look at themselves and, ask.
Hannah, the final comment from me would be, you'll never please anyone. And, my dad's always said that to me. And it's just a case of that in life, and like we say, we're fickle fans. Well, some of us can be. And, you'll always get the doom and gloomers. You'll always get the more positive people. At the end of the day, what will be, will be. I'm still going out there and saying we'll be promoted next season. And on that note, I'm leaving you. So good night, all. Great discussion. Cheers, guys.
Bye, Alex. I think, it's a lovely way. It's a nice way to sum it up, isn't it? From my point of view, listen, I would just say this: like, obviously, the club are pushing hard at the moment on your season tickets and whatnot. Like, just get if you're umming and ahhing and you're thinking about doing it, just do it. Because I've got a sneaky feeling. By the time Clem gets back on the plane to Australia, we're gonna be happy. I think my gut tells me, even though our manager is still in place, my gut tells me we're going to have a new manager. My gut, obviously, clearly, Ben Chorley disappearing. I would like to think we're either going to have a new director of football or we're going to have a new manager in place that is a little bit more of the traditional model that has an extensive black book.
And if that doesn't happen, Hannah's. We're here to take them to task, aren't we? That's the whole point, isn't it? That, if we don't like what's being done, we can question it. It's that simple.
Yeah, absolutely right. And also, I might add, Swindon Town fans, you've never had more people occupying more microphones willing to have that conversation with our football club. And I might also add, I don't ever recall our football club having more people behind the scenes, including our owner, willing to get on the phone at all kinds of hours or come online at all kinds of hours and answer those questions. So until suddenly, people are being banned from the county ground and people are no longer willing to engage with our now myriad, both fan-based and, I say professional broadcasters, we haven't got a problem, have we? Enjoy what you've got while you've got it. You've never had more touch points from a media point of view, and you've never had a more open, forthcoming football club. So lump onto it, get behind it. We're all Swindon, so let's make it count. Glass half full, just that minor switch, go from glass half empty to glass half full. Well, look, I don't know about you, Vic, but with time cracking on, I think I'm going to call it a night. It's been an absolute delight. Thanks for jumping on, Vic, and thanks to you, Max. Thanks to you, Joe. Chris had to leave us, sadly, and thanks to you, Alex. Obviously, massive thanks to Marcus Cassidy for coming on for what was a good hour and a half's worth of our hijinks earlier in our nights. All that leads me to say is, as you are aware, the Sir Tom Broadbent now is an independent Twitter space. It does not represent the views of Swindon Town Football Club or Sir Tom Broadbent. We have still got plenty of shows lined up over the course of the summer, guys. We are going to be, no doubt, breaking news. We may well be back on the air tomorrow night, for all we know, or Thursday night or Friday night. But there will hopefully be more shows over the course of the week as events at the county ground unfold. So keep your ear to the ground. Make sure you're listening to Low Strangers. Make sure you're listening to the Fools Rush In vlog. Make sure you're listening to Vic and all the guys. As I said, you've never had more touch points. Hopefully you're enjoying what you're listening to. But for now, we'll leave you with that. Have a good night. So for over 30 years,